Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of appreciation to Abraham Mohammed, Adam, Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Blue Ridge Ranger, Burn Fat Till My Stomach is as Flat as the Earth, Chow Yun Cat, Dank, Dave Rakia Gafford, David Wayne Foster, David Robinson, Daz Studio 68, Edwin Johnson, Erwin Jennisons, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin, Henrik 86, Joshua Balsimo, Kirsten Smith, Liam Nedrick, Life is Short, Maria Neelands, Matt, Missouri Bear, Nagara, Nathan Thompson, Naibai, Rob H, Skeptic 936, Steve ALM, Texas Mike, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, The Real Gabster, Tina Baker, Tom Hawkins, Unbelievable Productions, and Windrider. So a massive shout out thanks to all of you who do support me on Patreon. Now we are joined by a couple of people in G+, and I think a fair few people in Discord as well. Yes, there are. So I'll leave you with their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
He's kind of fun in the after show. I don't know about on the Nathan show, but for the, I don't know. I kind of like welcome everybody in the after show.
I don't know how you stay in there so long with all of those ballers.
Well, I don't always stay in there. Sometimes I'm just playing video games and doing other things. I just kind of like try to keep the peace when I'm around more than anything.
While playing video games?
Hey, without them, there's no show, right?
What a great time in Flat Earth.
Yeah, you get to play video games.
Yeah. You know you're right, so you can just play video games while they tell us straight lines curve.
Watched a video by one of the guys who drops super chats on the... Oh, he's in the chat now, Cleary. And he made a little video basically saying there's no one to step up for the globe anymore. I'm paraphrasing, but he's saying the globe model's untenable, to cut a long story short. And he's pointing out that because the globe model's untenable, we are directing the narrative currently. The flat earthers are directing the narrative, not you. And when he said it, it really widened my eyes. I was like, bloody hell, he's right. Now, who's in charge currently? It's us. It's not them. Now, obviously, we're talking about the trenches here. We're talking about the battle that takes place here. We're not talking about the general westernised world. Because if you look at it in the wider scale, are we making any impact at all? You could argue no. Obviously, you could argue yes as well. I'm not saying we are not, but I'm just saying. But yeah, in terms of the way the discussion's going, we're absolutely in control of the narrative. Cleary's right.
Well, we would also be in charge of the entire Western world if they would just have a conversation.
There's still a
One
case
day.
that... Go on, Neil.
I was
What's
going to
that?
say one day it'll happen.
What will happen?
The
The
Western
conversation?
world will know. We just got to keep pressing in.
Well, the Western know when the newspapers tell them.
Yeah, that's my whole point in that statement. If they would have a conversation, then it would be just like here in the trenches. When they don't have a conversation, they're like sheep being told what to believe.
Right. If the
You know what
Western
I
world
noticed
told...
during this? Come on.
Go on.
I was just gonna say I noticed something during this like lockdown. I noticed like it's almost like some people are becoming more aware while other people are still remaining asleep. So there's like a big divide happening, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So this might be an indication of things to come. Like some people would just like wake up more, and some people will still remain.
Absolutely. It's the analogy that I've used several times is by Thrice 8 Hermes, and he describes a magical ratchet. And while the ratchet tightens for the general public and they get, more isolated and more of their civil liberties taken away, that same ratchet opens other people's eyes. And by ratchet, I mean it tightens up, i.e., the security measures imposed on you for the sake of argument. Well, when the ratchet seemingly goes back to its original position, it's not untightened. But as I say, he describes it as a magical ratchet where it tightens up for some, and for other people it's like an unveiling.
Yeah, everyone's got their timer for truth at different intervals, supposedly. Certain things have to happen for some people for the facade to break, and very little has to happen for other people for the facade to break.
I think with the current situation, people are realising that there may be consequences further down the line, and that it may actually affect them beyond the, what they're being told to be scared of. In other words, you're not looking out your windows and seeing corpses pile up, but nevertheless you're being told that corpses are piling up, right? Well, instinctively, I think people know when there is a real immediate threat to them. And some of the rule changes result in that, as opposed to the rolling death toll numbers that go around on their telescreens. It's a very different scenario when you point out, well, no, there's been certain law changes. This will affect you. This is how. And then suddenly it's all too real. And those are normally the same people. I've had the same conversation half a dozen, maybe a dozen times with people. And they start off by telling me I worry too much. Bearing in mind this conversation starts with me saying to them, really, you don't need to worry. Fear's the whole point of this. Don't be too fearful. And then they will go on to say, well, you're concerning yourself with it too much. It's like, well, no, I'm well researched and I know what to be scared of and what not to be scared of. And then when I point out where they potentially might succumb to some of these new rules and regulations, it's all too real immediately. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like you said many times, and for the people who are awake, we get it. People who aren't, it's almost like it's in a code. And here's what you said. They already got what they wanted. Now, when you say they only got done what they wanted, that really didn't get into the nitty-gritty of what they got. But as time rolls on, you're going to find out what they got. You got less freedom, they got more control.
Yeah.
And they get to tell you how to live.
And often the things that are, it's not seeing the wood for the trees. What's occurred is what's occurring.
Yeah, I mean, just see where everyone's going. And you got this big, scary monster out there. Everyone's looking at that. But when you look right in front of you, oh, you're going to need this kind of certificate. You're going to need to take this test. You might have to take this vaccine. This is what they're doing. They're putting layers and layers of control so they can say, oh, let's get rid of this group of people. They kind of are in the way. And then they use this law that they made. Oh, you don't want to get vaccinated. Oh, you don't agree with the state. You don't want to get chipped, or you don't want a certificate, or you don't want this, or whatever they come up with. I'm just throwing some stuff out that's in the news. Okay, well, this is a good way to get rid of everybody, because everybody will thank us for getting rid of these gypsies because they're outcasts.
Well, I can't enter a store without a mask by me. Now it's mandatory. If you do not have some sort of covering, you cannot go in and purchase anything.
There you go. I had utility workers here on the property, and they're coming today as well. And they were working on the electrical lines, many telephone poles and that have electrical lines on the property, and they need access. So none of them are wearing masks. And then when it comes to the guy saying, okay, we're done, we're leaving, he says social distancing. And I look at him, I go, you don't have a mask. Give me a high knuckle five. And we we punched our fists together and got high knuckle five, and we had a smile. I go, don't believe that crap.
I was at a funeral yesterday, and it was the weirdest thing. Like, you're supposed to comfort people, mourn with those who mourn, And they're like telling you can't. It's insanity.
Well, that's the control that they want to put on people, and the fearful will all agree. They'll give up their liberties and their rights in order to get another meal on the table. Now they're pushing universal income and all this stuff, which is perfect for lazy people because they were lazy to begin with.
Now you got people complaining in New York, the ones that are working, saying we're not making half the money that you're giving the people on unemployment, which I still haven't gotten through yet. All the guys I work with, they've gotten through to unemployment and are getting unemployment yet.
They've got control of you from birth, and the nihilism that's instilled in everybody comes from heliocentric programming. So for years I've been saying this is the biggest deception mankind has ever faced. Now, this pandemic will come and go. There might be more. However, the overall control over the sheep starts with controlling their surroundings, where they are. What is their existence? What are they? And that's all wrapped up in the heliocentric paradigm. All of it. So this subject, as far as I'm concerned, is the baseline, the starting point, the foundation of control over people's minds. That's what government are responsible for. They're the authors. Shout out to JLB, by the way. JLB made an excellent video yesterday describing how COVID is real. And I completely agree with him in every single respect. And he to paraphrase his video, he starts off by saying, look, don't thumb this down until you've listened to the video. I'm going to explain why it's real, how it's real, and how the authorities make it real. And he breaks down the etymology of authority and authorship and explains it to you. This is how they are telling you it is real. Therefore, it is real. And my comment to him was, well, yeah, I say this often when I do, people laugh. It's true because I made it up myself. And when I say that, it often gets a snigger, but there's a deeper meaning to it, which I tend not to go into. It's just an off-the-cuff, sometimes gets a laugh joke. But it has a deeper meaning, which John LeBon completely understands, and it was quite, warming to see him going through this with his audience. I'm like, yeah, right on. And I explained exactly that. I'm like, yeah, I say that. I made it up myself. Therefore, I'm the author of this information. I am the authority on this. You realise that? Do you understand? And all that's critical is that you understand I am the authority in this regard. And I am. Therefore, it's true because I made it up myself.
I get what you're saying.
The other thing I strapped on was to say that if I am the authority on a matter, I can communicate my information to you verbally. Potentially I could write it down and refer to it verbally, or might even publish it in writing. I might publish it verbally on a video. There's all sorts of different ways and means of publishing something which I am the authority on. And they may or may not match. What I write down might not necessarily match what I say verbally. And it doesn't really matter, because I am the authority and it is right either way.
And there would be no problem if you were an author with wild imagination and wanted to get your views out. But when you're the government and you have local police force under your control and military under your control, then you can enforce it.
As I say, this acceptance of not only a rule structure, but also your entire worldview and paradigm. As I say, this is all given to you at a very early age in life. It's hinted at, it's taught to you in your cartoons, and then it's taught to you in second grade when you get to school. And it's reinforced continually with movies and TV, pictures of globes, icons, symbols, all globally based, just reasserting over and over again that which you were taught when you were a very small child. And that gives you an overall outlook of nihilism. Very useful if you're going to try and keep control of your masses.
In there an echo going?
Maybe.
Sounds fine to me.
Yeah, I hear an echo.
I'm good. I can't hear it.
Okay. All right. I remember in sales training, some people would come, and most people actually would just not make the cut, and they'd just, some would cry and say, "How come I'm not able to get this? How come salespeople are able to do it, and I want to be a salesperson and I can't do it?" Blah blah blah. And so I said, "Well, some people change because they want to, and other people change because they have to. And salespeople want to, and you have to reach a place where you have to, and you haven't reached that place. And that's the wrong demarcation line or marker, should I say, to wait for. Wait, I became a salesperson because I wanted to. I wanted to live on commissions. I didn't want someone to say I was worth $5 an hour or $10 an hour or $30 an hour. I wanted to be worth whatever I could be worth. If it's $100 an hour, and if I was really bad, I might only get $2 an hour until I got better, and then it'd go to $200 an hour because of the craft of salesmanship and learning it and communicating, because that's all it is. It's just communicating with people and giving them what they want already. And I say, you're just not there in the sense that you want to, striving, chasing, denying yourself of your fears to reach that point. And so you're going to have to wait for the have to moment, but then it might be too late. So it's the same here. When the people look at the arguments that the flat earthers put up, our housekeeping questions, our top three, uh, it's right there. I want to believe the truth. I want to believe what I could, in the sense, realize right now. I don't need any more. It's right here. The globe is a lie. I've been lied to all my life. And the facts are right here. And then there's people saying, well, it's not that important. I don't want to talk about it. Let's talk about sports. And here are the normies that don't want to broach the subject. And so then later, when they have to, it might be too late. It might be too late because the powers to be put more controls, and you may never reach that point, and you may not even realize you never reached it because they've taken it away from even the choice. I don't know. Freedom people are different. Freedom lovers, libertarians, people who say, yeah, well, prove it first. Those kind of people. That's my kind of people.
I got a test for you.
Shoot.
Put on a TV for an hour and just see how many references to a globe, heliocentric, space. I gave up after I counted up to 300 in less than an hour. Just on a regular TV channel, just watching and counting.
No can do. No TV here.
Yeah, well, you're out of the test then.
I had to establish with my folks
it's
some of
over and
the...
over and over.
Because I'm literally not exposed to any of the mainstream media narratives. Well, that's probably a complete falsehood. I'll stop kidding myself. Some of the ones that are more recognised, like newspapers and TV, I'm not exposed to. So I had to gather some information yesterday from my folks. I'm like, what are the papers saying about this? What are the papers saying about that? Because I didn't know. It's like, that has its advantages most of the time, 99% of the time. But at the moment, you do have to actually know what they're saying. And I had to get the lowdown. It took me about an hour. So, for example, I was like, what are they saying about Trump? And they're like, oh, Trump doesn't come into the newspapers here. I'm like, you don't know anything about Trump. No Trump news, no Trump news. Like, really? And then my mother then proceeds to tell me all about what Trump's doing. And it's like, well, it clearly is in the news. But I want to know about other aspects of American news that I'm looking at in alternative media. Are they making it through? And they weren't. And you're like, okay, so that gives me a good idea of which parts of the narrative are making it through to your mainstream newspaper headlines and rolling news, and which aren't.
Hey, Bev.
Robert Bassano. Two times he said planet. Across the planet. I caught him twice saying it. He's a flat earther, right?
He knows it's flat. I wouldn't worry too much about Robert.
I'm just saying, it's all over. It's getting in your mind one way or the other.
Yes, it's part of your vernacular, whether you like it or not. Sometimes you can't help but paraphrase things with global vernacular. Not because you're intentionally doing it, just because that's how you're wired. You've been wired like it for a huge amount of time. Robert's no different. I'm no different. Occasionally I slip in various global terms and you do it and then you go, bloody hell, how is that even possible at this stage of the game? And you're like, well, you're wired that way. That's just how your language is part of your, when you recall a bit of language, that's often going to have a global reference. We do it all the time with atmosphere. Right, we say atmosphere, we could just say air, but we say atmosphere because it's part of the vernacular.
I hate that word.
Air has no shape is my, whenever I hear that.
Hey, Bev.
Hey.
Yeah, right on. But if you're going to have a fundamentalist presupposition about what that air is doing, you can give it a term, atmosphere, and then suddenly anything that you want to define within that terminology of that particular thing, atmosphere, you can. And it's just what you accept. What do you accept within your language? If it's structured for you to have a presupposition, you're going to have it if you've been indoctrinated with it from birth. This is following on a little bit from what you were talking about, Bev. I mean, I completely wholeheartedly agree. Do you remember when I asked you to expand on, the programming from birth? I see that as very critical. I know you padded out with it, but you mentioned it when you were talking about it with me before we did the show.
Yeah, well, I guess through what I've learned, that is the big part of it. It's all mind games done with words and word trickery. They get you to say anything. Like, did you know the meter was a measurement that they just decided that it was going to be 40-odd thousand from one place to another? So they just divided it by whatever. And so every time you talk of the meter, it's a measurement of the sphere thing that they're shaping. They put these things into the vocabulary just so it I don't know, repetites the ongoing belief that you have. It's just in daily common language all the time.
Reinforcement. That's the word you're looking for.
Yeah.
Something like a straight line is a curve on a ball.
Oh,
well, that's not part of the common language. That's just doublespeak that you get at trench level once you've, tried to debunk flat Earth failed, and then you end up with the doublespeak. Yeah,
it's not just the trench level though. It's the proper fundamentalists. I've just been practicing. Tony said to us the other day, I've been working on this set of questions that you can get these people onto somewhere that's much easier than I don't know. It's like they're all playing mind games into fantasy land, and if they can get you there within the argument, they've sort of half won, because they're sort of begging the question of what they imagine you want them to say and all sorts of things like that. So what I developed was like a very basic set of questions that lead right back to the beginning, the fundamentals of what you know and you understand. And it exposes the cognitive dissonance that's in everybody plainly to see. The hard part is getting somebody to go over these questions, especially the globe believers, because it sort of like it smashes your understanding of what the model is.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by Bev Try Thinking, 10th Man, Righteous Force, Chocolate Saiyan, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hey.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Not such an enthusiastic start to the show. Hey ho, such is life. Any signs of physical Earth curve obstruction, formerly known as Earth curve or the geometric horizon?
Not from Overland Park, Kansas.
I'm not allowed to go out. So until you tell me I can go out.
Well, we also have atmosphere, and apparently, because we can't ever see the geometric horizon. So
That's
no.
unfortunate. You'd need to, given that they claim it obscures things in the distance. Any signs?
It's weird because they somehow have a measurement towards it, and don't know how you do that if you can't see it.
Yeah.
That's a little weird.
How are you going to qualify it physically obscuring things if you can't see it? Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Hello, Paul.
Good morning.
Good morning.
No axial rotation of the Earth-based variety. If there was, we'd know it.
Good morning, Arwin.
Hello,
Hello.
how are you doing?
Very well. Fine day it is.
All right, I hope you're not mostly down from yesterday.
Mostly down.
Oh, God.
Okay, so for the live audience's benefit, the show from yesterday will go out tomorrow, so it'll be released on my second channel, which is Nathan Oakley. So that was an in-joke because it hasn't been released yet. So check out that. It's the Uncut and After show for 11:51. As I say, that'll get released on Sunday, and then the Uncut and After show for this show, Friday show, will go out on Sunday night, again on Nathan Oakley channel. So be here or be sphere for Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After show on the Nathan Oakley channel, which is linked in the info box below this video. Thank you for the plug, Arwin.
Oh, I didn't know you hadn't put it out yet. I did my show about it today.
Oh, that's okay. It'll gather up the audience. It's one of them. When you've got a really juicy show, you're like half tempted to release little snippets of it, but by the same token, you think, well, no, if I don't, it'll be brand new when it releases on the second channel. And like anything, it's just me plugging my other channel, which is beneficial to me in terms of building it. So why not? I'll just keep it back. And I suspected people like yourself would talk about it, which you have, which is great news. So yeah, check it out. Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After show, 11:51. It'll be released on Saturday at 10 p.m. UK time.
So it's mostly out now.
It's mostly down. Mostly down syndrome is what Arwin coined.
Asymmetrical entropy, of course. You know, that's what it means, effectively. Mostly down implies asymmetrical entropy.
Is the entropy law about entropy?
Yes, it is, yeah. Second law of thermodynamics is the entropy law.
No, but is the entropy law the entropy law?
The entropy law is the entropy law, yeah. It describes and speaks
He
to
was saying
entropy.
it was the entropy law, but not entropy.
Yes, it was a fun-packed double-speak nonsense show with the fundies having their nonsense summarised. Also had Rumpus sticking his fingers in the ears like a complete coward. It was a very good show. Moving on.
Yeah.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there.
No evidence for the distance.
So, Bev, you might want to pipe up about this, given that I watched a show with you on it, albeit with quite low volume, on Emma UK's channel. So shout out to Emma UK if you want to check out what we're about to talk about. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
well, scientific. I mean, there has been some rumblings amongst the globe defenders. It was started initially by Zanuck, with uphill rivers flowing uphill. Do you want me to get you? I think I can get you the clip that I did that initially started this.
Oh, brilliant!
But
Please,
it became into a question to ask other globe Earth believers, like whether they believed it was possible. And we were talking to Nate, which is the one that you have heard. And he said, well, he wasn't necessarily sure that Zanuck was correct, but he said he'd been taught at school in America that the Mississippi River flows uphill. So although he couldn't confirm Zanuck's story of the St. Lawrence River being measured by the American Geodetic Society, which you can hear him say, he couldn't confirm that, but there was another river that he knew about. So now it's a hot question: do the globe Earth believers have rivers that flow uphill? But along with that was the question, like you say, gravity. It's like, how does that G thing work with a river that flows uphill? Logically is the big question. Quite a few of us were struggling, and we've done a much more than that half hour. Trust me, there's another one coming out 4:00 p.m. of another globe Earth believer struggling with the fundamentals of reality.
Do you want to break this down? What do you mean by flowing uphill?
Exactly.
Break this down.
Well, the quote, I've just put it in Master B. It's a clip from Zanuck that says that the American National Geographic Society have measured that the source of the St. Lawrence River is 8 meters below the sea.
Well, no, this shows that the St. Lawrence River has been the U.S. Geology Society has measured this river to be 8 meters higher at the mouth than at the source.
Yeah,
Okay.
What?
But the source, is it going to just fill up then? I don't get this. You can actually displace water to higher ground if you do through a straw, remember?
So the source
through
of
the suction
river,
effect, but
the source of a river is normally up in the mountains, isn't it? Like these people that understand this, they know there is a height to the mountain where the source is, and it goes to 0 because that's sea level 0. It's always a plus number going to a 0 number. Now they understand that, but something along the way melts the brain into I don't know. It's fantastic.
It doesn't make any sense. Not even on the globe this is true. Is this a complete nonsensical claim?
I don't understand this. Explain this with the normal topography. What's going on that you're describing? Considering it as a flat plane without any globe, then explain how globe makes this not work. I'm still struggling with this.
Yeah, but I don't want to hazard a guess at what they're talking about. I'd much rather have them describe it to me, because it goes against my fundamental understandings of logic. So it's much more fun getting them to explain it than me imagining what they're thinking, because I know if I imagine what they're thinking, they'll go, oh, that sounds good. I'll have that.
Doesn't make any sense. Not even on their globe, not even with R-based gravity direction. It doesn't make sense. Just no.
So
Just
beyond
no.
beyond Zanuck stating that this river's flowing uphill,
and Nate with the Mississippi, he has the Mississippi flowing uphill as well.
How is this possible in either conceptualization of what would be going on? Please break this down for me, Bev. I'm still really struggling.
I don't know. Like, honestly, it's like you understand logic and you probably understand it logically. These people obviously have to have a completely different understanding of logic, which is
let me just
illogical.
Well, given you're saying I do understand it, hold on, Bev. So, right, let's just start basic. Rivers do not flow downhill. Flow downhill. Rivers do not flow uphill. Let's get it right. Start that again. Rivers do not flow uphill. Right, that's my first logical instinct, and nobody's ever going to explain it otherwise. But what I want to know is how the topography lies on a globe to make this the case anyway.
Doesn't.
Right. So it's just completely nonsensical.
Yeah.
Why did they even bring it up? Just to confuse people?
I think.
Are they going with the nonsense of, like, if you're going, obviously if you're at a ball, you're either always going uphill or always going downhill? Is he somehow trying to say that? Like,
Who
I don't
said this?
get this.
Zanuck
Is
said
he
this.
here to explain this crap?
Let's focus on the other guy.
This was done quite a while ago, this one with Zanuck. The Nate one was done just
who's
very
the other
recently.
guy? Zanuck's a double-speaking fundy, so to be perfectly honest, if Zanuck said that rivers flow uphill, I'd be like, yeah, that's pretty much within his character type. So that doesn't concern me. Who's the other guy, and is there any actual documented rhetoric that states this?
No. No.
This is a red herring. This is kind of maybe it's a wild goose chase.
What interested me with the Zanuck clip was he didn't say he'd measured it. No. He said the American National Geological Society. So that's a real people.
Did he provide some actual evidence that they did, or did he just say something random?
We've got someone who might know it. Hold on. Chemo, are you there? Chemo's got his ear to the ground. He'll probably be able to fill in some gaps. You there, Chemo? Wonderful. Glad to have you.
No therapy?
Yeah, it was recorded a fair bit ago, but fundamentally it comes down to the fact that level fries with the brains. It can't be horizontal. Now, once they know it can't be horizontal because it doesn't fit around their ball, then they do strange things. Now, this particular one with Zanuck, it was about an hour and a half that me and Spot On did. Another one from Emma UK, right? When we went through the practical use of levels and all of that, and he even went to LIGO, which is the straightest, flattest thing in the universe, as he said. But then he also proceeded to say that if you were to put a ball at each end of it, it would roll towards the middle.
I mean, this is just the height of doublespeak.
How does that work if it's the straightest?
It doesn't. It doesn't. This is the height of doublespeak.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah, but that's how they live, isn't it? I mean, that's how they survive. If they have to face the actual facts, then it's obvious they come to one conclusion. They don't want to come to that conclusion, so therefore they just have to doublespeak and obfuscate. That's all they've got.
He Googled it. If you Google "do rivers flow upstream," you'll see what it says.
Fill us in, Neil. Just read it out if it's in front of you. Hold on. Can you read it out, Neil? If it's in front of you right now, you've just nominated yourself to read it. No, he's not going to bite on that. Someone Google search "do rivers flow uphill."
Hold on, I got you.
Hold on. Go ahead, Neil.
The term upriver or upstream refers to the direction towards the source of the river, i.e., against the direction of flow. Likewise, the term downriver or downstream describes the direction towards the mouth of the river which the current flows.
Yeah, that seems perfectly consistent.
Yeah.
He just Google stuff as you're talking to Zanuck and whatever.
That's not stating that that the water is actually flowing uphill.
Right, exactly.
No. Has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, upstream towards the source of the river, but uphill is what's being argued about. Like the flow is actually going uphill, from what I can gather from this argument. It's complete nonsense, but there we go. That's what's being argued about. As I say, I just see this as a wild goose chase, red herring nonsense.
And if that was true,
red herring going
what
up
would that mean for what would that mean for this nonsensical gravity crap? If that was the
Just
case.
a red herring going up
Here
the
we go.
stream, John.
Perfect. Chocolate's the man. Right, Chocolate, you've brought me back to why I asked this question whilst asking the housekeeping question about scientific evidence for gravity. Because what this argument ended up in on Emma UK's show was a discussion about how the force of gravity was being divided by 2 in certain places. Now, it was so off the reservation it was untrue. I mean, I was listening to this stuff with my jaw on the floor going, number 1, we've not got a force. Number 2, you're going to take that force that doesn't exist and divide it by 2 to square a circle that, as far as I can ascertain, isn't a square that needs circling anyway. I don't really understand why this is being justified. I'm still not any clearer, to be honest.
I have another one. Rivers tend to flow downstream, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they flow sideways and sometimes they flow upstream. Rivers flow because water falls due to the effect of
Mostly down.
gravity. Due to the effect of gravity. So there you have it.
So is this purely...
Wait, what was the last line again?
Is it just a way... Hold on. I think I'm
Rivers
getting... Thank you, Neil. Hold on.
water-
Hello?
Okay.
So, by the sounds of things, this is just a stupid subject to argue about, akin to arguing about whether or not rockets will work in a place that doesn't exist, so that you can argue about the place that doesn't exist. And win, lose or draw, you've got the assumption of the place that doesn't exist, that would be outer space, when you argue about whether or not rockets work there, which is all good for the person who wants you to believe that outer space is real. Likewise, if you want to just convince somebody that gravity is real, why not spend your time in a convoluted nonsense about rivers flowing uphill that begs the question of gravity? Because then at the end of the argument, you might win and prove that you can't have rivers flowing downhill, but topographically speaking, they're not actually flowing downhill on either model. But ultimately, we beg the question of gravity for quite a prolonged period.
Yeah,
Can I
that
jump
was
in?
interesting. The last word is gravity.
No, I'm sorry.
jump in real
I
quick?
wanted to hear the last line. I know you don't want to hear it, Nathan, but I'm curious about something. So could you just repeat that last line,
Rivers flow
Neil?
because water falls due to the effect of gravity.
Rivers flow towards waterfalls.
Rivers flow
Okay.
because water falls due to the effect of gravity.
Arwen spoke through. Everyone, can you all mute up while Neil reads it uninterrupted? Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I'm weird.
Okay. Rivers tend to flow downstream, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they flow sideways and sometimes they flow upstream. Rivers flow because water falls due to the effect of gravity.
So
Can I say something real quick?
rivers also fall up then because of gravity.
Is that it, Chocolate?
What the?
Yeah, it's nonsense, Chocolate. I agree. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, me and Zanuck had this conversation, I think it was last year maybe. I think it came up. Let's imagine you're standing at the mouth of the Mississippi, when it empties into the Gulf, and you're looking back upstream. Well, obviously the water starts at the higher elevations upstream, but then they roll down the mountains into the river or the Mississippi, then kind of flow over the curve and dump into the Gulf. That's what they're having to say that's happening. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's slightly clearer. Yeah. Big shout out to Cleary. Says research the 2,000-mile long Amazon. Oh, it's jumped. Drainage basin. Thank you very much for the super chat, Cleary.
Yeah, I mean, and he says, well, it's the force of gravity that causes it to flow from higher elevations at the other end of the Mississippi where it starts all the way down, then it flows downhill and then over the curve because of the force of gravity. So it's flowing over a curve. I'd like to see someone demonstrate that in some kind of experimental setting, but that has yet to happen, I think.
I have yet to see gravity make water flow uphill.
Oh, but wait a minute, Tense Man, no, but they say they can calculate it. So if you do the calculations, it works.
Like I said, I have yet to see. I didn't say math or calculations. I have yet to see, unless it's got a reverse gear. Maybe it's reverse osmosis. You never know.
Okay, I've got a question for you, Paul. So there's a stretch of this river that between point A and point B is presumably I don't know, it doesn't matter if it's an inch, but it's only slightly lower, assuming a flat plane, from one end to the other. But given that it's, you know, very close to flat or a very low amount of relief, what they're saying is between point A and point B, you've still got the presupposition of an earth curve between those 2 points. Therefore, regardless of what the actual elevation drop is between point A and point B, there's an earth curve in between that they presuppose. Therefore, it must be flowing up and over and down again. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much. That's what they have to say. They have to say that. So, and also, there's another factor that they don't think about either. You know, if you think about the Nile River, it's flowing from in Africa towards the Mediterranean, so it's flowing basically from the equator north, and the Mississippi is flowing from the north to south. Now, there's this thing called the so-called Coriolis effect and centrifugal forces. Now, think about that. Now, if that's true, then the Nile, because of the centrifugal forces, should flow slower, but at the Mississippi, it should flow faster. Do you understand what I'm driving at? I think about that as well.
No, because that's a bullshit bastardization they use of the Coriolis effect, right?
No, I agree, but I'm saying that's what they have to say. That should be the fact that those should be factored in as well into their so-called calculation.
Sure, but we're getting away from this point about having to flow over a curve. But for the fact that there's a presupposition that the Earth is a sphere, this river would just be flowing downhill as every other river does. But you insert a presupposition that you have an R value and an earth curve edge between point A and point B, and suddenly you've got an earth curve for it to have to flow over. So, in other words, the only problem for this river, for all intents and purposes, it's dropping in elevation. It must be, it's flowing. They're saying that it has to flow over a curve. But that's the only problem that's being installed by the presupposition of earth curve. But for that fact, it would just be dropping in elevation like every other river. It must be, it's flowing.
But
right.
Hang on,
but their elevation, so-called, is from the center of the Earth, not from point to point. Makes any sense?
Yes, no, I understand that. Thank you, Paul. I'm crystal clear on what the scenario is now. No
hey,
thanks
Nathan,
to you, Bev.
you in chat says water always finds its uphill.
Yeah, right. You've got to have relief if it's going to flow. It's not going to flow if it's facing a hill to flow over. That's not how it works. But yeah, but for the fact that you've inserted a presupposition of a sphere Earth, this wouldn't be a problem. And then dividing gravity by 2 to get it going uphill and having less of effect of a force that's not a force acting on it is just a complete nonsense created with the problem of a sphere Earth being a presupposition, not because the elevation doesn't change, because it must if it's going to flow downhill. If it's going to flow towards the mouth, if it's going to flow out towards the sea, it's got to have relief. It can't flow uphill. That's not how rivers work. So, yeah.
Can I just add, I've just put one in Master B there that shows where the St. Lawrence River actually is. You might be surprised.
Okay. Got it up.
It's at the end of the Great Lakes in Canada. So the source of the St. Lawrence River is the Canadian Great Lakes. And I don't know about you, but this whole question about gravity and flowing uphill, normally you'd end up with a trough like a reservoir, and then the overflow would come, so you would have a level bit in between. But the whole uphill river thing would show a concave shape. No, otherwise it'd just be filling up like a trough of water, wouldn't it? A reservoir, like a lake.
Where does water flow uphill?
Sorry, who was that? Was that Jazz? A bit quiet.
You g'day, Nathan. How are you? Long time.
Very well. Oh. Bit quiet, Jazz. Don't eat your mic as a result of me saying that. Great input, Jazz. Glad I cleared the airwaves for you.
I know, I'm waiting for you to carry on with what you were saying.
Fair enough.
Can I just ask Jazz, do you have an uphill river preference choice, the Mississippi or the Lawrence, or do you have your own?
Are you sorry, are you trying to say that rivers can flow uphill? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, the globe model.
Yeah, Zanuck and Nate do.
I know all the rivers that I have flow from the Southern Alps, either east or west out to the sea, or south or north.
So downhill.
All downhill.
You don't know anything about uphill rivers.
What's that?
Because Nate was telling us earlier that he'd been over to Gem Panda's server and like he'd nearly convinced them that uphill rivers were a possibility now. Were you not there when he was doing that?
Hang on. Jim Panda almost convinced people that rivers can fly uphill. Is that what you're saying?
No, Nate said earlier on Emma UK's channel that he'd been over to Gem Panda's server after we'd talked about the uphill rivers that he has from the Mississippi. And he said he'd been to Gem's and discussed it with them. He said they weren't too sure at the beginning. They thought rivers went downhill like we do. But eventually, after he'd talked to them for a while, then they were coming round to the fact that they were possible. Yeah, uphill rivers.
Oh, so Nate is teaching them about the model. That's cute.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Okay,
As I said earlier on the show,
hang on.
it's true because he made it up himself. He's become the authority on this subject, and he's telling them, and he's explaining that towards the end of the explanation process, they understood. Isn't that nice?
Wow.
Well, actually, Nathan, I can explain physically how a river could potentially flow uphill, not for very far.
Brilliant. Did Nate tell you this?
30 seconds ago, this sounded crazy, and now you can explain how it could potentially happen. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's how this works. So you don't want to be the person that doesn't understand. If you're the person that doesn't understand, you might meet with ridicule for not understanding this stuff.
No, Nathan, I understand everything, but I could...
See? Perfect timing. See? No, I do understand. Yeah, that's the whole point of this. You need to understand this.
But you don't understand anything, but...
Oh, so it's the reverse psychology. Ridicule me for not understanding it. Yeah, that's going to work on me when I've just pointed out to the audience how this little magic trick works, and it's gone completely over your head. Yeah, that little magic trick's not going to work, mate.
It is. The cards are flying right over. Carry on.
So go on, tell us how you can explain how a river will flow uphill. Go on, tell us how you can...
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
No, you said you could explain how rivers would flow uphill.
Well, do you know how?
Because if that's the new argument, you don't want to be the one left out of the new argument. So please tell us how rivers flow uphill.
Okay, so can I talk? So you know how a flood happens? Water gets backed up because of a blockage.
You want me to affirm each bit of this, or do you want it to be rhetorical?
Okay, so that's what that is. That is how that could happen. Is that water is getting backed up due to the flow, the cubics or cubic meters per second of water can't go through that same outlet because of a dam.
I see. Kind of like Bev explained earlier. But before Bev said it earlier, he also said, typically when I explain this, they'll come along and say, yeah, I'll have that. Yeah, that would be water behaving in the normal way, though, wouldn't it? If it gets backed up, it's because it's not flowing uphill. That's why it gets backed up, because it's not going uphill. Trying to go down, reaching a blockage, and backing up. That's not flowing uphill, mate.
Nathan.
Doesn't sound like flowing either. Sounds like
behaving
it's dammed up or backed up.
That's not water behaving naturally. That's water behaving because of something getting in its way, which makes it back up, which can make it go back.
And if it was going uphill, it wouldn't be backing up. The whole point is backing up means it's not flowing uphill. If it if it could flow uphill, it wouldn't back up, as you put it. So that's not an example of flowing uphill. Hello?
Okay,
water
so
can
what's your
have
example
a
of
little
flying uphill?
momentum.
So
You know,
that's what
if
we're
it
talking
went
about,
downhill,
Nathan.
then it might
Go
go
for
up a little bit uphill, maybe with the momentum that it's gotten from going downhill. But it's not going to persistently do that continually upward.
I don't think
Especially
that's
when
the
there's
current
this
thought.
weird
I would.
force that's supposed to pull everything down.
That's it, mostly down.
No. It's a force
Mostly.
that you can manipulate in any way you choose in the rhetoric to do whatever you like. If it needs to pull things up tomorrow, it can. You just make it up.
No, it can't, Nathan.
Yeah, we know. It's not even a force. It can't do anything. We know.
We agree.
What can it do tomorrow, Nathan? What can it do?
Gravity can't do anything. It's just a concept. You can't do anything with it. It's conceptual.
Except, are we talking about water, or are we? What are we talking
We're
about?
talking about gravity.
Water can bowl over a.
Yeah, water
Okay,
can pull
so
up.
a volume of water can bowl over a house tomorrow.
Yeah, it could.
That's in the same state. That's in the same state as your position right now. It can bowl over a fucking house.
Why are you getting annoyed at me? You haven't demonstrated water can flow uphill. That's part of the argument that you said you understood. I mean, I'll take it from me. I mean, I'll just use the tactics of your own side, Will, when this happens to you. You don't understand this. Why are you arguing flat earthers about this when you don't understand and accept my authority about what rivers do flow uphill in this example? They flow uphill because I've told you they flow uphill. Now, why don't you get this, moron? Why are you arguing when you don't understand? Yeah, it's easy. You tell people something as an authority figure, and when they repeat it incorrectly, you point out that they don't understand, haven't accepted your authority, and you ridicule for them. You ridicule them for it. And that's what's going to happen here. I'm going to ridicule Jazz for being a moron who doesn't understand this. You don't understand their double-speak nonsense of how rivers can flow uphill. You're giving the downhill explanation. God, don't you get this? Don't you understand?
You've just okay. I work for CBS. I need you to prove that you can prove that rivers can flow uphill.
They can't, you stupid moron. This is globe rhetoric, you daft twat.
So prove it, you dumb.
We don't
Jazz,
want to prove it. We don't think it's true. It's a problem for the globe. When you assume a globe, you've suddenly got a hump to get over for this river. The St. Lawrence River, it's got to flow over a hump if you assume a sphere. That's not us needing to prove it, you daft prick. You need to prove it, you moron. Why aren't you getting this? Why are we dealing with such complete retards? You're telling me to prove the shit that you can't get around with this stupid globe model assumption? That's not my problem, you moron.
Dumb fucking cunt.
Oh, right, it's time to remove Jazz because he's been obliterated, so now he's swearing at me. Of course.
Poor Jazz.
He starts off with the argument and then says it's your argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zanuck did that on yesterday's show that's yet to be released also. So it got to the point where he's saying air goes mostly down, mostly boom boom, mostly gravity, with air expanding in all directions. Then we point out one of the cycles to him where it's just going up, and he asks me to justify why it's going up, which is the response to his argument. The rebuttal, the demolition of his argument, is suddenly being put on me to justify when he finally concedes that his arguments fall to pieces. Well, no, I'm not going to suddenly explain why these bloody rivers flow uphill, you moron. That's not my argument. It's nothing to do with me, my rhetoric, anything. We're smashing your nonsense. Bloody hellfire. How thick are these people? Well, you argue to make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, we know that's our point.
Even though when he was first told it, he made it sound so stupid. Like, wait. Jim Panda was trying to convince someone that rivers go uphill. Right? And then he ends up 2 minutes later trying to defend it. Oh, I can tell you how that happens. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, that's because I pointed out and used their little magic trick of, well, you've got to understand, respect my authority. You're a moron if you don't understand this. Well, understanding and accepting this thing as real because it's been explained to you by somebody in authority and you've nodded along or they've taken advantage doesn't make it real, doesn't make it make sense, doesn't make it logical, doesn't make it real, doesn't make it anything. It just means you've understood what they've explained. And in this case, he didn't even understand it and took offence quickly. Something that I might not understand will quick declare that I do. I'm not thick.
After he tries to defend it, he realizes he can't, and he asks Nathan to defend it.
Yeah.
Oh,
My head is swimming right now.
It's laughable.
that argument.
Would that be uphill or downhill?
I quite like this.
Got
Now,
right past 10th man.
go on, Neil. Sorry.
It said my head is swimming right now with all of this, and it got right past 10th man.
I got it though. I say, is that uphill or downhill?
I was trying to say that his argument was damned from the beginning, but no one got that either.
In case you can't tell, I think this is a cracking argument, which is why I brought it up with Bev on the show. Yeah, kudos, Bev. Good subject.
Oh, there's loads of these. Unfortunately, they're all based around level, and everybody says, "Oh, you're always going on about level." But I mean, that's fundamentally that's what it is. It's like they're all based around the fact that level practically is used as a horizontal plane of reference. They can't have that. They just can't. So if you use modus tollens, and because you know that they can't supply facts about their stuff, so nearly everything is modus tollensable within this within the logical framework. I mean, you just have to find your way around it, and to find the logical argument.
Yeah, spot on.
And
I listen back to some of the old debates and hear myself actually formulating modus tollens without even realising it. When you're explaining the argument back, you can't help but slip into a logical consistency argument when you're having to break it down for somebody. If this, then that. Not this, therefore not that. And you're doing it without even realising.
As well, though, Euclidean geometries are based on logical fact. It's the finest axiomatic system there is, based on logic, based on reality logic. Euclidean geometry, anyway. The facts you find out through the geometry are real facts. That's why they call them proofs. You can get proofs through mathematical geometry, Euclidean geometry. You struggle for non-Euclidean geometry, but actual real life geometry and triangles and all of that sort of stuff, yeah, you can't go wrong with it. But logic, again, it all comes down to logic. I think the fact that you either work yourself logically, or your logical process is overridden by the model, and that model drives your logic. As in,
be careful. It doesn't drive your logic. It drives you into a state of, this is well discussed, cognitive dissonance, which is to hold two positions simultaneously that don't add up and are contradictory of each other. That position where you can hold the opinion that rivers all flow downhill. We saw a perfect textbook example of cognitive dissonance with Jazz. He starts off the process by saying, rivers all flow downhill. Obviously, logically, that's what they all do. Then it's explained that no, Dumbos at the moment are being ridiculed if they don't understand that they flow uphill. I'm not a Dumbo! They flow uphill! Now let's make my brain function in a way that makes it not make sense. That's cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
How about the
I've heard that exact thing happen with Bev, and is level curved, and somebody will come in, like on Discord or something, and they'll come in and you ask them real quick, is level curved? And they'll say, no, of course not. What the hell are you talking about? What? And then when they realize that, well, that's part of their own rhetoric, then they're like, well, yeah, level's curved. It's like, what? You don't remember a half hour ago when you came in, you said that's ridiculous? But now that you realize that that's part of your rhetoric, now you got to work that in, right? You got to massage it into the narrative. I'm sure that's painful. Like, I'm sure it was very painful for them to say that they don't ever see the geometric horizon. I'm sure that didn't come very easily for them.
It had,
but they had to. Sorry, Tim. Go ahead. I'm done.
No, it's okay. It happened this morning when I caught Bev talking to Nate, where Nate was saying a straight line on a curved surface is straight still. You want to go over that, Bev?
Oh, well, yeah, that one's got to be cut. Another one. But I mean, yeah, we've got, like I said, that I've got, or Tony said, we've worked a few questions together that that you can work through in a logical process that you know one after the other. It's much better if there's a glober to go over it, you know, or somebody to work through it. I can work through it if we get somebody. We do have a baller that's willing to take some questions or some statements, and there's some very simple statements, and we'll just work through them. See
We've got
if
Jazz,
we've got
if
one.
he's calmed down yet and can stop swearing.
I don't know whether Jazz would be ready for it.
That was a kind way of putting it.
Do you want to tackle 8 simple questions, Jazz? I mean, Nate struggled with number 1 for quite a while.
Or anybody in Discord willing to go along with this. Oh, Jazz has piped up. Go ahead, Jazz.
Sorry, I'll just go because you guys got me kicked out for no reason whatsoever. So I'm just about to go.
You were swearing.
Smoke.
You were swearing. You were swearing. Not no reason. You were swearing.
Two
temporarily, I
minutes,
removed you just while you calm down and stop swearing. I haven't actually kicked you out.
I can stop swearing. I can stop
please
swearing
do.
on a dime.
That was how my preamble. If you've calmed down and can stop swearing, hopefully you can have some questions put to you, if you're willing.
That's okay, but that's not why you kicked me out, because of the swearing. Let's be honest.
I didn't kick you out. Second time, he obviously hasn't calmed down, can't listen. Number 1, I haven't kicked you out. I temporarily removed you from the conversation because you were swearing. That's it. I've reintroduced you and asked you if you're willing to answer some questions if you've calmed down and can stop swearing.
I've completely calmed down. I wasn't swearing.
You were. Just stop lying. Oh God, it's going to be so painful. Yeah, you were. Please, Jazz. Don't worm and weasel. There's no need. You're on a live show and you've got an audience. Jazz, please stop talking.
Anybody else?
Just stop talking, Jazz. Several hundred live viewers watching you and listening to you swear. So when you say, I didn't, you're just lying. There's no need to weasel. You're back in the conversation.
Okay, that's great. Maybe I was swearing. That's great. So, but get your hard-hitting questions ready because shit's about to hit the fan. I'll be here in a minute and 30.
You're here 1 minute now. Okay. Fluctuating time.
Let's just try. Bev, go ahead. Otherwise, we'll be here all day.
Right. Well, the question, I'll give it as statements. Right. Statements of fact is straight lines. Number 1, straight lines do not bend. Now I can go over that a little bit more. It's very simple fact, but basically, in order to differentiate a straight line from a curved line, a straight line has to be not curved. That has to be 0 curves. That is statement of fact number 1. Can I get a thumbs up, Jazz? No?
It's in the middle of the night for him. Okay.
That one was a doozy. So
Yeah.
He might have just fallen asleep or something. It is the middle of the night for him, so
they normally want to say that. Oh,
hold on. Go ahead, Neil.
I think he said he was going out for a smoke.
That's about par for the course.
Okay.
Yeah, it's typical Jazz behavior.
Well, can somebody answer then? I mean, you don't have to answer. You just imagine, like, I don't know. These are statements of facts.
Hold on, we've got to get someone to play along with you. So I don't care what side of the argument you're on. Somebody in Discord that's just willing to answer these questions with a yes or no in most cases, I assume.
Yeah, that's all you have to do is either agree or disagree.
Brian, Chemo, Lightwater, Marcus, anybody. Yeah, move some of these people out. They're useless. It doesn't matter what side of the argument they sit on. They can't answer yes or no questions. They don't really need to be in the live Discord server chat with the live show going on.
We find this a lot. Sorry.
So I've got the definition of line on screen again from yesterday. So if you want to share that.
Yeah, that doesn't say straight.
Hold on, just 1 second, guys. You cannot tell I'm trying to... Dr. La, are you willing to take part and just answer a few questions?
Yes, sir, I am.
Perfect, thank God. Please, start again from question 1, if you don't mind, Bev.
Okay, statement 1, rather than a question.
Sorry, statement.
Dr. La's one of us anyway. This is going to be quite easy. A straight line is differentiated from a curved line by the fact that it is everything a curved line is not. Has to be, otherwise it would be a curved line. Do you agree?
Yes.
Brilliant. Right, now the second one is a bit geometrical, but it's the fact that in order to make a perpendicular, you need 2 straight lines. You need one line to be straight to start, to form the perpendicular on, and the line that is formed on that straight line will be called a perpendicular if it's formed within the right 90 degrees. So the statement is straight lines are needed for a perpendicular. Do you agree? I can find a definition within geometry that says straight lines.
Yes.
1 second. He said yes. Perfect. Thank you, Dr. La. That's all. Go ahead, Paul.
Brilliant. Okay, now vertical and horizontal.
Just one sec. Before you get into the next statement, you said I'll read the definition if need be. Paul's gone to the effort of just putting it on screen, so I'll just get him to read it and then we can move on.
I'm trying to get back to it, so sorry. In geometry, a line is a straight line, no bends, has no thickness, and extends to both directions without end infinitely.
Thank you. Carry on, Bev.
That's a line. A perpendicular, I'll read perpendicular. Definition 10 within Euclidean geometry, book 1. He goes through the definitions of everything. So the definition of a perpendicular is when a straight line standing on another straight line. See, we've already said straight line twice. When a straight line standing on another straight line makes the adjacent angles equal to one another, each of the angles is called a right angle, and the straight line which stands on the other is called perpendicular to it. That's the definition of a perpendicular. So straight line, 2 right angles. The statement is, I'll read it again, vertical and horizontal are perpendicular. True or false? Do you agree or not?
So what does perpendicular mean?
Sorry, Jazz.
Did I not just...
Hold on. What was that, Jazz?
So what does perpendicular mean?
Literally just read out the definition twice.
Yeah, completely wrong. So what does perpendicular mean?
Well, if you're saying what he's read out is incorrect, you tell us.
Well, he's read it wrong
for you so you can
in both ways. In both ways, because if you're talking about
we got that. We got that part, Jazz. Yeah, you say it's wrong. Yes, we understand that. I don't need 5 more repetitions of you saying he's read it wrong. He's read it the wrong way. Maybe the way he read it was wrong. I don't need that 5 more times. Either I need you to clarify the actual definition according to you, hopefully cite it so we can read it along with you, or explain why it's wrong.
Nathan, do you notice how when you start interrupting, I stop? I bet you don't.
How is it wrong?
Perpendicular is to the center of a circle.
What?
That's really...
And that citation comes from... Hold on. Where's that from? Can you cite that, please, Jazz?
90 degrees from the center.
No, repeat it. You know he's deaf. Did you hear what I said? Where's this from? Can you cite it, please? Where's this definition from?
No, I'm not going to recite it from nowhere because you can't fucking
Oh,
listen.
so we have to
bullshit
accept.
then.
Hold on. So we have to accept that Jazzaconda is the authority on this. You're not.
Yes, fuckwit.
Oh, so it's back to swearing. Maybe later we'll have a little lie session about him not swearing as I again remove him from this conversation for swearing. Yeah, you lost. You're a moron. You're not the authority on what perpendicular means.
So in Master B, I've put perpendicular as defined by Euclidean geometry, definition 10, book 1.
Pop it on screen.
I would
Perfect.
cite
I've
that as
also got a
the...
definition on screen.
Well, I'll just pop Bev's on first as he's just literally read it out, and then I'll pop yours on, Paul.
That's from a 1871 school maths book for Euclidean geometry.
Perfect. And then I'll just pop Paul's on. Want to read it? Paul?
Sorry, I stepped away for a second. Perpendicular at right angles to symbol is this, I guess. Hang on a second. Let me get on the different screen here.
That's all it says. That's all you need. At right angles to. And in brackets, in parentheses, 90 degrees. So, yeah, it's very straightforward.
Okay.
Okay, so what we done then for Jazz? That we're going to take that as perpendicular because he just backtracked perpendicular. That was a statement that vertical and horizontal are perpendicular. So they are known and defined as, if you look under any dictionary, vertical, you will find that horizontal is the perpendicular to it. I mean, it's defined as that, one as the other. They're both, they are called perpendicular, which means that each line is perpendicular to the other. You don't need to state which line is perpendicular because they are both the same. So, yeah, so that's perpendicular, vertical, and horizontal, right? Now, the next one, what we do is we establish, that was the geometric version of it. So we just sorted the geometric lines there. Now we're going to go into the fact of reality. So next question is, a plumb bob establishes a vertical. Would anybody be willing to disagree with that?
Yes.
The truth.
I've got several people saying no. A plumb bob establishes vertical. Who wants to disagree?
It's perpendicular to a circle. Jessica said so.
Okay,
Can't
Nathan,
be
what does a plumb
perpendicular
bob
to a
do?
curve.
Again, Jazz?
Nathan, what does Nathan, what does a plumb bob do?
Just been stated. Do
Establishes
you
a
disagree?
vertical.
It's just been stated. State it again, please, Babs. Not Babs, Bev. I spoke through you. Sorry.
A plumb bob establishes a vertical.
Yeah.
Jazza?
Okay, so do you know? So do Nathan and whoever said that? Do you know what the profile picture of a bicycle tire looks like?
Jazz, do you disagree with the fact that a plumb bob establishes a vertical? That's all we're doing. Like, yes or no? Is it?
Well, it depends on the way you're asking it because it's a stupid question the way you're answering it. Because it
Can
does.
you give me an
Jazz.
example when a plumb bob wouldn't establish a vertical? What else could a plumb bob do, Jazza?
Okay, so would a plumb bob establish a vertical on
We're
a
not
flat
asking for
disc?
your series of questions. It's a yes or no
Would
closed
it-
question. It's either no, it does not establish vertical, or yes, I agree. As defined, it establishes vertical. It's a yes or no question. We're not inviting your questions.
No, Nathan, it doesn't, because a plumb bob would only establish a vertical on a sphere, it would not on a flat disc.
Right, okay, Jazz, this is the next question is whenever we get this, we have to establish what sort of use you have ever used a plumb bob for in reality. Have you ever actually used a plumb bob for anything?
Yes.
What
yes,
did
I
you
have
use
in a court of
a
law. I can
plumb
say
bob?
right now, I
He's
have.
saying yes. Hold on. Go ahead, Jazz.
Yes, in a court of law, right here, right now, I have used a plumb bob, and only a matter of weeks ago.
What did you do?
Okay, what did you use it for?
I
Jazza?
didn't shove that plumb bob anywhere it shouldn't have been shoved. I used it to do what it was actually designed to do.
Yeah, what's that? What did you do with it?
I used it to do what it's designed for.
And what's that? What did you do with it? What specifically, what process did you go through and what did you achieve at the end of it? What were you doing when you used a plumb bob? How bloody thick are you?
I used it to find perpendicular to the center of the fucking earth.
Wow, got to remove him again. Right, this time he's getting removed permanently. Every time he just gets smashed into oblivion. He's not done anything that's referencing the center of the earth when he used his plumb bob. He's probably putting up a shelf. Bloody hellfire.
Well, I think, like we established just a bit earlier, you can't have a perpendicular to a curve. You need a straight line. So, and we're only on a vertical. I mean, if there's any straight lines, Jazza, that you have in your model, this is it. This is the one. It is a plumb bob vertical, Jazza.
I've kicked him out.
This is your most best. Oh, has he been muted?
Well, it's the third chance he's had to not swear it when he gets smashed and his nonsense gets exposed, and he just keeps swearing at us.
Well, you know, he can't answer these questions. This is why it's so hard. It takes ages. Do you want to? We've only got 4 minutes left, so if we can whap through them really quickly, then everybody else can use them. You can see how much problems everybody has.
Sure, Paul,
right? So,
just read out your definition of plumb bob, then we'll rattle our way through the last few.
Well, plumb bob, it's just that everybody knows it's a practical tool of a plumb bob. It establishes a vertical. That's practical use of it. I get a yes off somebody, just and then we can go on. Brilliant. Then
I level vertical, yeah.
Look at my screen. Look at my screen. Hold on, can I just get control again? Right, I just want Paul to read out the definition, then we'll move on. Go ahead, Paul. Oh, so painful.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was getting there. I had to click on different windows. A plumb bob or plummet is a weight usually with a pointed tip on the bottom, suspended from a string, used as a vertical reference line or plumb line. It is a precursor to the spirit level and used to establish vertical or horizontal tandem.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Paul. I don't mind if we end up going a little bit over. Don't worry about the time, Bev. I'll just read out a couple of super chats and then we'll move on with the next one. Cleary says, can you share this guy's channel? I assume you're talking about Bev. Yes, I can. Good servant. Also, thank you very much for the super chat. Feel free to continue, Bev.
Okay, that's Emma UK anyway. That's the channel if you want to come and have a chat.
Oh, you want me to put... okay, I'll put Emma's channel in the... Okay, thank you.
Right, so next one would be in the reality understanding of this geometry is a level establishes a horizontal frame of reference. Like the plumb bob establishes a vertical frame of reference, the level is the practical use of the word horizontal, and that makes the horizontal.
Yes.
Brilliant. That's normally the one that they get stuck on, but if you can get them past that one, you're pretty good. Now, reinforce the fact that level and a plumb bob are the practical tools, but they work independently of each other. There is no, you can't adjust a plumb bob and make the level change. They are both two independent tools that establish these reference frames completely independently of each other.
Yes.
Brilliant. It's going along swimmingly. Then once again, you have to reference the fact that level is the practical use of the word horizontal.
Yes.
So, and then with after that, you would say the water level is horizontal.
Yes.
And at that point, you would say, if the water level is horizontal, how do you get that horizontal to wrap around a ball? And
You
at
cannot.
that point, cognitive dissonance would prop in, and they would have to go right back over them questions again from the start, and they'd be forced to change one of them answers. It's the reason why Jazza was struggling a bit earlier, because Jazza's probably heard this set of questions.
Could I say something on it there? Rather than arguing about a plumb bob establishing a vertical and a level establishing a horizontal, the right angle absolutely kills the globe, which is a combination of both.
Perpendicular.
Because they can't have a right angle.
Yes, that's
they
covered
can't
in the
have
second.
any consistent right angle.
Yeah, that's covered in the second question or second statement about perpendicular. Correct. That's where Jazz lost his shit.
But the term right angle is, I don't know if it is, but I would have rather than hearing perpendicular, right angle, it would be something I would have heard more of. I'm just saying for argument's sake in the future, although perpendicular might be, the way Bev said it, might be a more industry standard.
But the beauty of the question is
right angle.
The beauty of the question, though, is that you need right angles for the perpendicular. So don't even give them the right angles. Just say,
well,
is it perpendicular?
There is a
Can you
further
have perpendicular without a straight line?
There's a
well, they have to show two right angles that are level with each other.
Yeah.
Go on, Bev. You can round out the live show.
That's the problem.
Hold on, guys. Go ahead, Bev.
There's a better proof, and that is the fact that in order to measure an angle, what's needed is two straight lines. You can't have an angle to a curve. Just not possible. Can't be measured as such. And so not only can a perpendicular have to be two straight lines, that an angle needs two straight lines in order to measure it.
Perfect. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who shared the show, smashed the super chat and subscribed. A massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making this live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on the after show. I've been Nathan Oakley and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Good presentation, Bev. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, we do. Emma's got one going at 4:00 later on today. Another one that we had a chat with a guy yesterday that came from Twitter. He was initially came to talk about my water level test, but I mean, as it always ends up floating about into all over the place because they have to divert at some point, like Jazza does. Somehow they have to get away from the conversation or obfuscate, always.
Indeed. It's good, definitely a good topic.
It's going to be hard to get him to come and talk.
Right. Well, Jazz was basically trying to resort to an old baller tactic of just assuming that everything relates to something spherical because they assume they're standing on a spherical Earth.
Exactly.
So he was saying, no, horizontal is always in relation to a spherical surface. And vertical is always in relation to a spherical surface because he's assuming the surface is spherical. And therefore, by his standard, it can only ever be done in relation to a circle, because that is what he must be standing on in his mind.
Exactly. And the way you get people to do that cognitively is to brainwash with them with the presupposition really early, so that they cognitively say, well, of course it's acceptable to beg the question in this instance. I automatically know we're standing on a sphere. That's the only way it could be done, therefore. And if there's any issues therein, we're going to have to figure them out based on how the sphere works, because obviously we're standing on a sphere. But you can only do that if you've got little kiddies with the heliocentric model as a mobile, and cartoons with rockets going out to the moon, and pictures of cartoon sphere Earth and all that crap when you're a really young kid. And then you're educated in it in the first couple of years of school, and then you accept it from there on in, because it's reinforced constantly in everything you see and take in, and the vernacular, the language, everything reinforces that idea that it's acceptable to automatically assume that you're standing on a spherical surface, regardless of any circumstance that may come your way.
Yep. So it's because we were taught it. And
at a very early age.
Yep.
Right, and the culture, it has been fabricated, the culture of fantasy and imagery and ideas and fantasy, even openly, to reinforce that, to always give out something. Something is always in your face to help you to choose to reinforce that dream instead of resorting to more critical thought about it.
Yeah, because imagine somebody like a 30-year-old who has accepted that their life has been spent on a flat stationary plane, and then trying to convince them at that point that it's actually a ball that's spinning and flying around in a vacuum. I mean, imagine that shit. How ridiculous would that be? The face that person would have, like, what the hell are you talking about? You live in a ball. That makes no sense.
Yeah, it's the reverse instead, because of the indoctrination. The look you get is, what do you mean we live on a flat plane? I know from the moment I was cognitively processing anything that we're standing on a sphere. Automatically, without any confirmation even required. You fool.
Right. It's almost
Even
like the
though
mother.
if you break it if you break it down honestly with them, they'll tell you that all they've experienced is a flat stationary plane. They'll still believe that flat stationary plane is indeed a ball that's spinning.
But you know how you could compare it even? It's like little duckling imprints. It's like the first thing that the little duck, when it gets out of its egg, is going to see that is big, they're going to assume that is their guardian. So little children, when they cognitively start to wake up, if the first thing they get to see and they're forced to pay attention is a ball, then that ball is like a mother duck imprinted on them, on their spirit, without them even realizing the process, because they're after that point going to be distracted by their life and what they have to do and what they have to learn. But it is kind of the same effect. It's imprinting.
Yeah, to make that point, David Weiss, DITRH, sent my firstborn a hugger globe. Obviously, he was just making that exact point, and it's quite funny. But he sent it anonymously and then, contacted me. Did you get a present, by the way? I'm like, what, a hugger globe? That's my kid's first toy. Thanks very much. Although it was very amusing.
Yeah, because that's again how it gets reinstated into their heads, right? Because even before they go to school, if they've got a globe or something, or they see it on television, mommy and daddy are gonna say, "Well, look at that. That's where you live. That's your home."
Yeah, well, that was exactly what DITRH explained to me. So his eldest son had that as his favourite toy. And back in the day, that's exactly what he was telling his kids when he gave him his favourite toy, the Hooker Globe toy. So, kindness dictates that he should give the same to my daughter. Thank you very much, DITRH. Really appreciate it.
Well,
Hello,
I even
Marisa.
have it. There's also the idea. I remember that it was kind of like a cool thing to do, to have when your kid is still a baby, to have like a crib, and then over it have these balls, these planets and all that suspended in a thing to
I had
float
one.
over that.
Yeah, solar
I
system
love
mobile.
I had a solar
about it.
system mobile.
But the weird thing is that even the weird thing about it,
Look
that
where I
even
am.
thinking about it now, it gives me like a feel of joy. Like I think I think I had that, and I thought it was
Listen,
extremely cool.
I absolutely had a mobile with the solar system, and my first mattress had rockets in space on it and planets. I swear to God, I'm not even joking.
Right.
I asked one guy, why do I have to assume I'm on a sphere? You know what he told me? Well, look up in the sky. Everything else is round.
That's a really big one with people, and like even like I have grown adult friends who said the same thing to me. Like I can't establish how you can think you live on a flat plane when I look up in the sky and everything up there is a ball. It's like, what? How does that logically follow?
Well, it follows that if I'm walking through the woods and everything I see is a tree, well, then therefore I'm a tree.
I'm a tree, yay. And I say that, and they look at me like, well, that doesn't logically follow. And I said, that's the same thing you just told me. Are you kidding?
But
Man.
that only stands in that logic if your presupposition of what the lights in the sky are, as opposed to wondrous lights in the sky with cyclical patterns, they're physical rocks that are sphere-shaped in orbit. Well, again, that's been programmed into you from a very early age. So when you look up at the sky, it's not that you're just seeing the lights and going, well, logically, look, those lights mean I'm on a sphere, because you've got to make some presuppositions about what the lights are to then make that logical deduction, which isn't logical in the slightest.
Oh, but Nathan, they're not all rocks in space. They're also very condensed balls of gas in between a vacuum.
Yes, okay.
And even burning,
rocks.
exploding balls.
That's
of
right.
gas
Some are
in
rocks
between
and
a
some
vacuum.
are second law of thermodynamics violation balls of gas or plasma in a sky vacuum. Yes, that's right, Arwin. In their rhetoric, some of them violate multiple laws.
Quite fantastical.
Hello, Quantum
Quite
Eraser,
sad.
by the way. And Brian. Hello,
Morning.
Brian.
Good morning.
Q to the E. What up?
Q to the E. That's a good
What's
one.
up,
Thanks.
man?
What's up?
What's that?
Sky's up. Well,
Guys, if we all jump at the same time on one side of the planet, we can change its orbit. Sorry.
Been reading space news again? Listening to Vsauce or something?
I don't know, but this was kind of a thing in school. I remember them talking about it. Like, yeah, we can change something about it. And I was like, okay. Why would you want to do that even? I still remember that. Like the normies get caught up in some really dumb shit that they really don't think about, that they're just gonna do because it's being talked about. It's bizarre how that works. So yeah, if somebody on the news or at some popular science program suggested something as ridiculous as that, then people would be talking about it and think like, yeah, we could do that. It happens. What the hell is on screen?
Insidious.
That's fucked up.
Have you not seen that meme before?
That's fucked up.
Got loads of them. A million memes.
You never seen Insidious?
Yeah, but Insidious, really? Thanks.
Well, you know you got a troll army out there, bro. You know they love you.
Yeah, but that's like, fuck. No. I don't look like that on the other side. Thank you very much.
On the other
look very
side.
much like I look on the
When
other
you're in the
side, not like
further,
that.
that's not what Arwin looks like, by the way.
Right. I'm just saying I don't look like that on the other side as well. Okay,
Get
I look
Arwen's.
very much like I look here.
Yes, so please get Arwen's demon looking absolutely how it should look. Not like a demon.
That's not an accurate
Right.
depiction of my demon, goddammit.
I don't know. I think on the other side, I look much more like I do right now, but maybe a bit more shamanic, with more of a rope situation with torn up fabric. And I probably am carrying around my staff there constantly. I think.
That's fascinating. Thanks for letting us know.
You're welcome. There I am.
Is it an evil staff?
No, it's hideous.
No.
Get it off. Get it off.
No, that's evidence that I actually have Ranty Scam.
Did you need that evidence? did somebody?
I did.
Otherwise?
I actually had to show it on camera 2 days ago over at Jose's because people seriously were spreading the idea, and they thought it was real, that I had sold it.
Yeah, someone
like,
came in. Came in a couple of days ago and gave me $2 to ask me where Ranty's drone was. I'm like, what?
Oh, but I've heard that before. It's like, yeah, but I definitely prove that I still have Ranty Scam. Yeah, it's very easy to do. I could do it right now.
Is it just the assumption that like people are running GoFundMes or doing these like fundraisers to get equipment and then they're immediately just like taking them down the pawnbroker? You know what I mean? Like 10 minutes later. So you've got to keep showing that it's real.
No, it's more likely they're gonna then, if that's the case, they buy it, they show it on camera, then they put it back in the box and get a refund. That would be more viable. But I don't know who's doing that. There might be people out there doing that. I'm not doing that. You know?
I didn't think that's so simple now you say it, and I feel a bit stupid for not realising that. But yes, that seems like the most obvious thing to swindle somebody. But is there a natural assumption that we're all out to swindle people out of a few quid? It just seems
well, maybe this is just because this happens among the ballers so much. So many scammers that just scam everyone. They don't care. That they're kind of gotten used to that happens because it happens to them more.
They're saying it's projection because their own are basically a load of liars and cheats and scammers. That means that
definitely,
yeah.
And plus, obviously, they think we're trying to sit here and deceive the world. So they're just gonna think we're just doing shit out of hand anyway. I mean, that's just
I was
par
told
for the course
Nathan's
with this topic.
Go on, Neil. What did you say?
I was told Nathan is rich. All he's doing is taking everybody's money. Stop taking my money, Nathan.
Nathan has kids.
So? Look, have you not seen my new Lamborghini? That's a lease, man. That's a lease. It's a lease.
Oh my God!
I know you need it, Nathan. I know you needed it.
Yeah, I need that Lamborghini.
Yes.
Can I comment on that actually? Because the missus, she sits in the front room, and she talks a lot about. Well, she doesn't talk. She just sits there and watch people watching stuff. But she'll watch Minecraft, and the people will be there sitting and talking rubbish about sandstone or whatever, and there'll be money dropping like mad. People chatting, subscribing, and all of that. But when I notice you, Nathan, or any of you guys, doesn't seem to happen as much. I mean, what's like? Why do you think that is? I mean, what's going on? Why are these people out there talking rubbish that don't seem to earn very much? Well, they earn loads. I mean, I was watching Fight the Flat Earth the other day, and the amount of subscribers and money he gets is exponentially compared to what you get. But I think you give a lot more intelligent conversation than they do. I mean, where do you see that is, the problem?
And don't get me started. This is me with a YouTube hat on. I'll just moan all day.
Supply and demand. It's all supply and demand.
Yeah.
There's I think a lot of demand for really dumb, arrogant baller shit. And just to keep the confidence going, the fake confidence. I guess there's a market for this.
Simple numbers. If you're going to compare us with our anti-flat Earth competitors, well, it's just a simple case of who's actually reaching an audience and who isn't. We're over time, slowly but surely being eroded away from reaching people. Now, that's been the case. We can easily show that it is the case. Even if you do make it here, you'll still be told that our side of the argument's wrong before you've even watched the video with a little tramp stamp underneath. Well, that all being the case, who's going to reach a wider audience and therefore generate more revenue from this? Well, obviously the people who are on the side of the mainstream rhetoric that reach the top of the lists if you do a search for it. It doesn't matter what your motivations are if you're a search person. You come along and go, oh, flat earth, what's all that about? Type it in and you come to Simon Dan. Well, that's going to be the first video you watch because people are lazy. Are they going to scroll down 50 pages? Probably not. So therefore, that's going to be more popular, that's going to generate more income. You know, if it was just about income, I'd just switch over to the bull side. It's far more profitable. But, you know, obviously that would be like selling my soul. So no, I'm not going to do that, as much as it's frustrating as a YouTuber, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm putting in lots of effort, lots and lots of work. As a result of the coronavirus, I watched the stats. It's a bit like at the beginning of the show when 10th Man was talking about sales, where you can monitor your statistics, you can have an objective if you know how to sell. Well, this is no different, other than the thing I'm selling is something I'm also producing. Well, in that regard, you can just track the statistics of what you're doing and see when it's going badly. And as soon as coronavirus came along, suddenly it's like, in my mind, I'm like, well, great, everyone's going to be at home. That means I'm going to have a captive audience of lots and lots of people coming to my channel. There's going to be more people searching, therefore more likely that they will go down 50 pages to find my video, and that can only be of benefit to me. And then over the next few days, I watched my stats go down and down and down, and I was like, geez, I've got to do something about this. So I did. I reacted, changed the way my channel works, changed the schedules, and ultimately did a lot more work to react to it. But you just wouldn't think that would be the case. You wouldn't think that in a time when everyone's at home watching YouTube, you'd need to work twice, if not 3 times as hard to stem the decline, which is all I've done. I've still declined, but just like it's gone down by about 30%, whereas it probably would have dropped, and probably has for other people who haven't reacted the same way as I have, by about 70%. You know, they've just gone, wow, my videos have got a lot less views and I've got a lot less revenue coming in and all the rest of those things that go along with it. And you go, yeah, but, you know, even if you had reacted to it in the same way I did, short of burning out completely working non-stop, there was not a great deal anybody could do about it. All that does is impact me as a YouTuber financially, hence me working harder. And I mean, great, it's been received well. People are very into the new shorter videos I've been pumping out. But there is obviously a financial motivation behind that. I need to generate revenue from the work I produce, and this is where I produce it, and that's where the money comes from. So if it isn't, I've got to work harder. It's the same when I was talking, I can't tell Neil when he's giving an example of people who are going out of business and saying, well, you need to figure out how the rules now work as the rules have been implemented and are being adhered to by other, and start making moves to make sure that those are all in place and you're ready to go, and you know, you're tentatively doing those things in the background while everything's shut down. You know, in other words, you kind of have to mold your way of being as quickly as you humanly can, and that's precisely what I did on YouTube. Now, did it mean that, you know, in normal circumstances for anybody else, if they did 3 times as much work, you'd expect 3 times as much coming back in return, as opposed to maybe 30% less than you were getting a week before, you know, with 3 times the work on top? Well, that's just how life is sometimes. You know, it's frustrating, it's annoying. Do I resent the people who are on the other side of the argument, who've managed to tap into a market that's considerably larger and more profitable? Not at all. More power to them, in fact. You know, as YouTubers, more power to you. Great. You know, I want everyone to be successful on this platform. If you work hard, you should be. The fact that they stand in opposition to me on a particular subject, that's when I take my YouTube hat off and go, dicks, you're all talking nonsense. You know, but that has the two don't really intertwine. You know, how well they do on YouTube and how much money they earn to them. If people are paying Flat Earth, Fight the Flat Earth for his content, and he's producing it, and it's of a standard that they like and they want to contribute to, then good for you. You know, give him more money. He deserves it if you're enjoying his content. And likewise, I hope the same thing would happen to me. It will, just to a much lesser extent, because I reach a much smaller audience, and currently I'm cobbled to the point where I have to do 3 times as much work to generate almost the amount of views I did from just doing my general amount that I used to do anyway. So, you know, things are going to suffer in terms of how my material's going out to people, and I know from looking at other YouTuber stats that they've definitely suffered. And when I ask them how much they've suffered, they'll often say, I didn't even notice. In other words, they don't even realise.
Can I add? Because I mean, I have been on both. I've debated Fight the Flat Earth with Septic, and it was a joke, as it obviously is, because you know, it's nothing the same as it is here. But at the end of it, they do a super chats. No, although the content at the side of the chat and all of that is probably just as vile or even much more vile than what you have. The questions at the end that people are willing to pay them to ask whoever he has on such ridiculous questions, but they pay him. Like at the end of every one of their shows, there are a series of questions that are asked by people that have super chatted that you don't get. You might get a couple of £2 super chats, but I mean, like, you say there's not much difference. I think there is. There's a massive difference somehow.
Well, I think is more of like a marketing thing, right? Because look, the guy came out and called himself "Fight the Flat Earth," right? So obviously, there's going to be a market for that because there are a lot of people. Obviously, flat earthers getting bigger, and there are going to be a whole lot of people that are going to be upset about that. So somebody obviously is going to say, "What the hell? Flat Earth is a thing? People think the Earth is flat? This is ridiculous." So that they find this guy, and even if they might not understand the arguments or care about the arguments, or care about the content creator, or give a flying fuck about what he's saying, the very fact that he is purporting fighting the flat Earth is enough for them to actually just give him money. Because of course the people, somebody, I should support somebody who's taking down this ridiculous narrative, because it shouldn't even exist. It's not okay to think the earth is flat, right? Like Michelle Dollar says
What's
from
your
NASA.
point, though? I don't
Right?
see. Hold on, Chocolate. What's your point? I don't get it. Well, more power to them. If that's what they want, and he's giving it them, then I've got absolutely no ill will towards that whatsoever. Good
No,
for
no.
him. And
My only stipulation is that it's also marketing as far as how much money they're making. It's not just content.
so what? If he's
It's the
successful,
marketing of it.
it just sounds
It's
like
getting into flat earth and
I just don't get it. As a YouTuber, yeah, we stand in
no,
opposition
no,
to
that's
him.
fine. As a YouTuber, I get you're the YouTube guy. I get that. I get it. I'm just saying from somebody. Well, I'm not a YouTuber, even though I'm on YouTube every day. But as somebody, I would call myself on the outside looking in. Right? That's what it seems like to me. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Like somebody would not care what the guy's saying. They'll just give him money because hey, he's fighting the flat Earth.
Yeah, but
Right? So when Bev says it's different because of the content, it's not really, oh my God, he made such a great argument. It's, oh my God, that's a fluffer. Let me give him $5 and say some nonsense I don't even understand just because he's fighting the flat Earth. You get
good
what I
for
mean?
him.
Right.
Hold
No,
on. Let me just
he's
respond
right.
to that, Arwin.
It's like a
Let me just
what is
respond to
it?
that.
One of those little
If
worship
we started this
places.
conversation talking about somebody that's talking about sandstone in Minecraft, and presumably this example I can imagine with Minecraft videos, they're getting donated hundreds and hundreds of dollars in $5, $10, $20, $50 super chats randomly while they talk about crap and play Minecraft. Well, let's just have a bit of empathy for Fight the Flat Earth for a second. If we want to put these hats on, he could sit and go, what I'm doing is destroying, in his view, nonsense that's being perpetrated by liars, and I'm putting a lot of effort and work into it, and I might get, let's say for the sake of argument, he gets $100 or $200, maybe even $300 per show he does, right? Well, you turn around and look at somebody who's making a Minecraft video talking complete crap about complete nonsense, and they're getting $5,000-$10,000 for a show potentially in terms of the ad revenue and the super chats and all the rest of it when you add it up. But if you took that attitude and compared yourself to every other bazillion YouTubers that are out there, you would go nuts. Because everyone's always going to have someone out there that's doing less work, talking more nonsense, and earning more money than they are. So, you can always compare it in these terms. And I just think, well, if you're going to take that attitude, you're in the wrong place, because you will go nuts with envy. Being jealous of somebody, like, I'd much rather be jealous of someone like PewDiePie, or somebody who's got one of those Minecraft channels that gets to play a game and just, earn money talking complete shit. They don't have to do any research. Man, you lucky sod. Good for you, man.
I could do that. I could do a stupid game and play that. I've actually considered doing that on
Well,
Deep Live as a side thing. But then
Well, it's not really about being jealous. It goes back to the level of the content. Like when Bev said, at the end of their shows, they have questions that are being asked that people are paying to have asked to flat earthers, which are probably the silliest questions in the world.
Exactly. That was the point that I wanted to make, was the fact that I could go to fight the flat earth and say exactly what I've said today, and they will end up making $300 or $400 of people that are laughing at me because I believe that straight lines don't bend. You know, it literally that stupid that they will pay him to ask me a question.
It's paid to win against flat earth, or at least that's what it seems like. It's like, oh, give me money and you win against flat earth. Oh.
Well, they have two things on their side. They have one big thing on their side, and that is that they can still allow the audience to have space. Right? People can keep space. You know what I mean? Because the space is okay. We can all still believe in space. Flat Earth is stupid, blah blah blah. But they also do something else because of their bigger audience and because they're mainstream. They misrepresent Flat Earth and misrepresent people in Flat Earth. Now they don't prove these things. They don't have timestamp videos and all this kind of stuff. They just misrepresent people, and that's what they do. And that's it. It's just character assassination and space. That's all they've got. That's what they work at. You know, don't go to Nathan Oakley. He's blah blah blah. He's blah blah blah. Right. Space is real, and they'll show how you can have gas pressure on the ground becoming a vacuum with a lot of
on the other
calculation.
hand, them constantly suggesting don't go there, it doesn't really work, you know, because they all go here. It's like, oh, I'm not going to go there. Oh, I'm going to go to the enemy and I'm going to tell them how stupid they are. And then they come here and they literally are disoriented because they had all these delusional conceptions of what we were like, because they believed all the nonsense talkers like Fight the Flat Earth about us.
No.
And then they get confronted with the real arguments and spiral out of control. And yeah,
but who comes here, Arwen, is not the normal person. Who comes here is the person who has done some kind of half a science degree and thinks they're smart, and they hang around in that audience, and they come in here, they get smart with Nathan for 2 minutes, and then they leave, and then they boast that they want on the Nathan.
No, but now you're talking about the people that actually get on the panel speaking. Okay, those are the special cases.
Yeah, but if all the normies were coming here, Nathan would have a much bigger audience.
They do come over here like that, like ha ha ha. Oh, these are the stupid channel. I'm gonna check them out how stupid they are, and then they're gonna be confronted with some real shit and get confused and maybe figure it out. So, you know, it's not their situation is not a win just because they make more money.
The point I'm making is the power they have. Besides the fact that they have space, right? This big fantastical place that sci-fi movies are about and everything. They have a bigger audience and they have what they would call the ridiculous body of science nonsense that and use this to completely misrepresent what we say and what we're about. You know, they completely misrepresent you straight away. That's what they do. Character assassination, misrepresentation. That's what they do consistently. I only had it happen to me in the past few days. Completely publicly completely misrepresented. No, and this is how they work it. So anyone listening is thinking, they're going to think, oh, that person, they think this thing, which would be a completely stupid thing. But even if the person did say something, it would be taken out of context and used again. You know, this is what they work at. It's all character assassination, misrepresentation, and space. That's what they work at. Right. They don't have any physical evidence. We can basically prove, right? We have physical evidence to prove our main claims. We've got physical evidence to prove it. They don't have any physical evidence. Right, so it's avoid physical evidence.
When you're in a losing position, you need your audience to get polarized and hate the opposition. Because if they don't do that and they approach them calm-minded and open, then they may actually figure out that they were on the wrong side in the first place. So it's a strategy. It's a strategy. Get everyone agitated, get everyone polarized, and then they'll think less critically when they actually approach the enemy.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. You get somebody to hate Nathan or hate QE or hate any one of us, right? Hate us, hate our guts, so that if we do make a good point, that goes right over their heads. They don't care. They hate us already. So the good point that doesn't get made. That's obviously a stupid point. It's obviously a stupid flirt thing to say because they hate the stupid flirt, right?
Yeah, well,
That's how that works.
their response to a good point is silence followed by a question of attack.
Oh yeah,
They don't.
obviously, yeah.
They go silent. Then it's a question of attack to change the subject. That's what they do. They're not interested in answering questions. It's the same rhetoric from the flat earthers always dealt with. If you go way back into whoever, Robotham or whoever, right? Go back, Lady Blunt or whatever, all them times. Same thing is that we're stupid. That's the same thing. We're stupid. And if they can misrepresent us enough to make us seem like we're stupid, even edit up videos, whatever they do, right? If they can do that, then they're reaching a much bigger audience. And it becomes, look, as Nathan was saying earlier, it's like, what do you mean you don't understand? It's like, you mean you don't understand how gas pressure can become a vacuum? What do you mean you don't understand? And you must be stupid. This kind of thing. And then people go, oh, maybe I'm out of my depth here. I must be stupid if I don't understand that. That is the thing to understand. Yes, gas pressure can become a vacuum. I'm going to be quiet now. These people know what they're talking about. Flat earthers obviously don't, in their head. And that's not true. But this is what they do. This is it from way, way, way back. It's character assassination. And now they have space. At least many years ago, back in Robotom's time, they didn't have space. You know what I mean? They had like the stars. They didn't know what was. They had no story about it. Now they have a story. Since the 60s or whatever. So they've got space, sci-fi movies, and character assassination. That's all they've got. But they don't have any physical evidence to back anything they say. They've got gravimeters. Nothing. They have nothing. But it doesn't matter. They're reaching the bigger audience.
You've been hanging out at
Gravimeter.
Jose's for a bit, Brian.
Well, I had to go. I was debating on there the other day.
You sound like you've been beaten down by people telling you that you're wrong for quite a while, actually.
He's unwilling to concede that gas pressure goes mostly down.
What it is basically is that I went over to Jose's. I had a debate, and it's like straight away things I said I was misrepresented on. None of my questions were answered. I was asked stupid questions. It was the usual nonsense, right? But the thing about it is that what I did is that I went in afterwards and I went into the comment section where, like later on, and read the comments and defended myself in the comments. Because the comments, like if someone is going to look at who's a normie and looks at the video and they go and they don't know what's really going on and they go down to the comments because people have a short attention span and they read another comment saying this fella's stupid, he said this, he said that, and I started defending myself in the comments. And I kept defending myself in the comments. And then I went to the comments of yesterday's one and defended myself because I was being completely misrepresented for the first half. I'd only watched the first half hour of yesterday's show on Jose's. And it's completely misrepresented. But this is what they do. This is all they've got. It's misrepresentation. They'll take and lies. They literally lie to misrepresent you. It's not just me. It's not like just a personal thing. They do it with everybody. Complete misrepresentation. And they'll take something that, right, and they'll do, like as Nathan says, they'll try and define Isaac Newton's thoughts. Do you know what I mean? And say, Isaac Newton would have thought this and Isaac Newton would have thought that on something. As if you can define someone's thoughts. It's giving themselves an authority they don't have. They make it up on the spot.
They obviously have spoken to these people personally and have have the full interpretation of what they said. That's why people get upset at me when I'll quote Michio Kaku and then secretly message me on the low like, hey, what he really meant was such and such and such. Like I don't speak fucking English and I can't understand what the hell he said. But because they have to change the narrative because the man is saying something that's so devastating to their story that they have to come up with something. The same way Neil deGrasse Tyson will say, oh, you don't see curvature from 128,000 feet. And you'll have a guy come in and tell you, well, what he really meant was what? What he really meant was what he said? Thank you.
Yeah,
like, are you
exactly.
kidding?
Yeah. This is it. And they hang on to certain things. Like they hang on to Newton's laws of motion. I have yet to see how Newton's laws of motion prove a globe.
I'll take care of it.
Thank you. I must say thank you to QE. I didn't realize QE was listening the other day, and he actually posted in. I was saying in the debate that I had heard that Richard Feynman had more or less kind of debunked or went against Newton's laws of motion some years ago, but I didn't have the details. So I said I'm not 100% sure, but I said this that I had heard that this had happened. And QE had sent me the details about it, but I didn't realize because I didn't have Skype open. And but later on, I posted because they were kind of stumped on that one. They didn't know what to say. And later on, I posted it into Jose's chat and into the comments, like whatever. And people started coming back saying, "No, you don't understand. What Richard Feynman meant was blah 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 blah." They all tell me about what Richard Feynman meant, and I just said, "Look." I said, "Does the laws of nature matter to big? Like, I mean, is there different laws of nature for small and big? I mean, no." And so, like, I avoid that question, which is the basic fundamental question. Like, I'm no expert on all that, but I mean, it's the basic fundamental question, isn't it? Are the laws of nature different? Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. Just sit back and relax. I got it.
All right. Thanks.
It's gonna be. If you thought Professor Numpty dipshit was bad, you ain't seen anything yet.
That was pretty bad.
Oh, speaking of which, has he made his little rebuttal video yet?
I have no idea. So just tune in on Tuesday. We'll go ahead and tune in on Tuesday, Brian.
Will do, for definite. I'll be there. I've actually asked, I tried to get Blue Marble Science to have another debate with me, and he wasn't interested. But then yesterday I heard a lot of misrepresentation going on, and he was there, and he wasn't correcting people, and he kind of half joined in on it. So I'm after kind of putting it forward to Jose that I'm looking for a debate on the debate.
So, don't worry. Don't worry. I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Just tune in Tuesday.
Did he, as of yet, figure out that a pipe and a can are both containers?
John will take care of it.
No?
No. It's okay, though. I'll take care of it.
No problem.
You just worry about straight as level, and I'll take care of the other stuff.
Oh, and bricks come from asteroids too. Yes. Thank you, Tommy, for reminding me that.
Can I say that I actually enjoy when you guys ridicule people that come in here and ask the same questions? Because it's like
you enjoy it?
A level of cognitive dissonance every time. Because I think you're introducing to arguments they've never heard.
Like the gradient guy.
Well, every time it's always, they'll come in with, I think they know something, and then they are introduced to the actual argument, and you're like teaching them the arguments every single time.
Well, just hearing that a response to a question that, hearing your buddies respond to a question put to them with a one word response, which is gradient or pressure gradient, 2 words, right? There's a clear difference between just being able to just say those words and think that you're going to get away with it and let it fly, or actually being able to argue whatever that is. Problem being, that's not the argument. So they're a little lost from the gate when they even say that nonsense. But apparently he's been paying enough attention to know that their side uses that as part of the argument. So he's got to throw it in there.
Right.
But he doesn't really understand how to navigate with it because we just say, well, that's not the argument, buddy.
That's why I enjoy the ridicule, because it is a level of entertainment to me. That they ask the questions, and then you have to flesh out the arguments for them, and they just get more confused by it. but they'll come back and they'll have a different understanding, and it's I don't know. It's good
The
entertainment.
base
don't.
arguments are
I
always
think they're
red
learning.
herring or straw man based in some way. Always. Because they're not right. Because they're incorrect. So that's the only thing they can do.
Yeah, but-
So they try to fine tune and work on the details of the straw man or the red herring, and then they agree.
Well,
Like, yeah, that's
you
a
could
really
see-
good tactic. And so that's why we get the same nonsense
Slick.
from people that often don't even know what it's about.
Yeah, they'll give you
Yeah,
a
but you're
model,
missing
and then
one.
once they realize that we're not claiming it, then they have to back up and reassess everything.
Yeah, because this side is not necessarily making assumptions. We're just observing something, and I think that's the part they get tripped up around. They're like, wait a minute, yeah, I have to assume this before this.
No,
this
that's
and
not
that.
it. What they try to do is redefine words to mean whatever they want them to mean, and then they make shit up, and that's okay. I love that.
Right.
That's just
Straw
my
man,
game.
Red herring always. Yep.
They start with
try
not
to
understanding
chisel at the foundation.
giving us a
Like every once in a while, you can notice how they'll try something a little new. Like remember how they used to? I mean, obviously the official story was gravity, right? But then at some point they started kind of fading away from saying gravity to saying no, it's the gas's weight. It's the weight that's keeping it here, right?
Yeah.
And then
And
that
weight's
kind of
gravity.
shifted to right. And then that kind of shifted to atmospheric pressure. We're not dealing with gas pressure. We have atmospheric pressure.
Yeah, that's the big one
Right.
now.
They don't use the arguments directly. They
Yeah.
just imply. They imply the arguments indirectly, so they don't
Then
have
you
to
walk
get
'em
caught
through.
on the argument not actually being scientifically solid.
Then you walk them through how atmosphere, atmo is air, air is gas, gas pressure. Follow numpties? That's okay. Keep on going with your bullshit. I'm going to drag you around by your short hairs. I love it. Keep doing it.
I mean, how like Zanuck was trying to redefine hydrostatic for you yesterday.
It's not the root words. The words don't mean what the root words do.
Like pseudo.
Yeah, he was telling me yesterday. He told me
Like
yesterday you don't break
pseudo-force.
down. He told me yesterday you don't have to break down a word to understand its meaning. I'm going like, no, that's what you do, Zanuck. You break down words to understand their meaning. It's stupid.
You start with the concepts and then make a bigger concept.
Hey, Chocolate, what I want you to do is I want you to put me on speakerphone on your phone because I got something to say to people in the background.
They're too busy talking. They're too loud.
That's what I mean. Be quiet.
They really like this all morning, man. I got to deal with it.
It's Friday, Chocolate.
Yeah, I know. They're all excited. Nobody wants to actually work. They all want to talk.
It's good to hear they're not mostly down.
Nope.
I'm not gonna let this one go. It's too many applications.
Yeah, tune in Tuesday, QE Live, man. It's gonna be a good one. Yeah,
I'll be out.
Yeah, tell your friends.
Mostly down, meaning sometimes up.
Yeah, but
That's a
mostly it's down.
Yeah, but that kills the other argument he tried to have earlier with what's happening with the gas that goes up. Is that just going up and staying there, or is that leaving?
That's
Being
leaving. We
making
never
an
hear
open
from it
system.
again.
Making
We
that
don't
an open
need-
system, right?
No, but we don't need to deal with that gas. You know, they're not part
You
of the
first have to
system anymore.
like, gas is gravity.
We need to ask him.
And
We need to ask him. How do you validate that the gas is mostly down? How would you go about validating that?
Well, you assume that it would have to do that because otherwise, why would gas stick to a ball in outer space? So It has to
Did
be.
I say assume? Did I say assume? How do you validate?
There any ballers in Discord?
It's just gravity is just biased or something.
Gravity doesn't exist.
I know, that's why it's so biased. You know, you would be biased if you didn't exist too.
Silence.
I don't think the ballers realize
Ballers.
when you weigh a gas in a container, there's a direct correlation to how much pressure is in that container to the weight, the so-called weight on the scale. There's a direct correlation. So, how do you know you're not just measuring pressure, not weight?
You can weigh gas, but it's difficult to do that. And yeah, it just goes to show that the general way of weighing things is based on relative density within a medium of natural gas pressure at sea level. That's just what the weight anchored standard
Yeah,
is.
weight is also fall down, 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 go boom, boom.
Well, if gas would be like in a balloon, then it would go downward in a vacuum, technically, if that balloon is strong enough to hold it in. But yeah, it's, you know, it's only because the medium it is in has become less dense than it. That's the only reason.
You have removed the relativeness of the relative density.
Exactly.
There's no relative now. It's just one thing.
No, it's still relative because there is no perfect vacuum. There's always going to be some gas, but if that gas is going to be very thin, then it's effectively going to have a very low relative, a low density on average. It's about the average density, you know, of the medium. So if there's lower pressure, there's going to be lower density too.
You know the thumbnail that Nathan has up there sometimes, where it's from Spaceballs with the big joint made with the hovering away the atmosphere off of that planet.
Mega Made, yep.
Mega Made, yeah, Mega Made. Ballers will try and tell you, and only recently I was told that that's not what would happen. I was like, yeah, okay, there wouldn't be a joint made with a joint hover, right? But that's exactly what would happen. Do you know what I mean?
Mega Made is our great assistant.
Ask them how that joke.
Get it?
Ask him how that joke would have worked out had he not put that dome around the Earth. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Mega Made is the thing that executes the natural consequence of the housekeeping questions.
Yeah, it's also Hollywood generally laughing in the face of you. It's Hollywood laughing at you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's Mel Brooks knowing more about his model than a lot of these morons do. Mel Brooks knew that joke wouldn't work if he didn't have something to contain the air. So apparently he understood the second law of thermodynamics better than Zanuck. That's great.
He did actually put a container around Druidia.
Yeah, I know. Nobody gives me the raspberry.
You got to ask yourself how that managed to make its way through the powers that should not be. How did they even allow that to make its way onto the silver screen when it completely contrasts the narrative? Because at a similar time, you got Superman flying around and changing the speeds of Earth and all that at a similar sort of time, right?
Yeah, but Superman is a serious movie, you know. It's supposed to be a serious story. It's cartoonish, but it's not a joke. It's not supposed to be a joke. While yeah, the Spaceballs, it's obviously everything about it is a joke. It's supposed to be all of it a joke. So then they can slip these kind of things in because it's comedy anyway. You know?
Yeah. Somebody will look at that and say, I mean, even I can remember looking at that like that's weird because that's not how that is. But then again, how would that work if that thing wasn't there? I remember as a kid looking at that like, but they've gone to bed.
My brains are sinking into my feet.
We can't stop. We have to slow down first.
Stop! I order you! Stop!
Somebody please save us. Is there a baller somewhere out there, for crying out loud? Ballers. There's no ballers in Discord, right? Is that what you're saying?
No
I
one
can
here
logically say
memorized
that
most of it.
the Druidia thing is just fine.
I'm trying,
Shield
yeah,
that they
sure.
put around there was to stop people from stealing their atmosphere. Right?
Oh, I see. So they weaseled
What about
into...
Is somebody trying to explain it?
Yeah, he's saying that in the...
Can you guys hear me
plot,
okay?
do you want to repeat what you just said?
We're trying not to.
I'm saying that the shield around Druidia is okay.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yes, it is.
So
It's
what
called a
about when the
container.
princess
It keeps
left
gas
the
pressure.
wedding and flew out of the door of the shield? How come the air didn't escape then?
Mostly down.
Yeah, because it goes mostly down. So I didn't figure it out yet.
Because gravity was holding the atmosphere to
No.
Druidia.
No, not gravity. Weight.
What's gravity?
No, not
Gravity
no, not gravity. Weight. Mostly down. Go boom, boom.
Go splash,
Okay,
splash.
so the weight of the atmosphere was held to the planet. Opened and she flew her spaceship.
Yeah.
When you invoke weight in their fairy tale, you immediately invoke gravity. So gravity doesn't exist. It's a fairy tale. It's like invoking invisible 3-ton gnomes.
I started with gravity, but you guys
technically,
wouldn't
it's an
allow it,
effect,
so you
John.
said it had to be weight. Definitely
That's
gravity
just-
holding
I'm
the
just-
atmosphere.
I'm just re-illustrating what Zanuck did on the last show because we
Yeah,
tried to
sure.
say to him, well, this is obviously going to be gravity, this force you're invoking. He wouldn't say it. He said, no, wait. So I'm just paraphrasing what they do.
Okay, well, I'm not him. I'm saying that gravity is holding the atmosphere.
You're chopping.
Okay, fair enough. What are you saying? Or are you just asking us why the gas doesn't escape from Druidia? It would. It would expand through that little...
Apparently, they
My
understood that
explanation
you
was
needed to
that
contain.
that the atmosphere is held to the planet, and they put up that shield just to protect somebody from stealing it. So that's why the Spaceballs had to use a vacuum to suck the atmosphere out, because the shield isn't holding the atmosphere in. The gravity is holding the atmosphere in. They put the shield up so Spaceballs wouldn't come steal their atmosphere.
I see. And Mega Maid created a differential between the sky vacuum and her bag, did she?
How
Agree,
did
that
she
part's
do
not
that?
very logical.
How did she do that? By creating a vacuum, just like what she's surrounded by?
No. She created a greater differential between the lack of gas pressure and the less than lack of gas pressure in her vacuum now, and it makes perfect sense.
Oh,
the
right.
the
So
vacuum
the
was-
natural vacuum surrounding the planet was not strong enough to.
Yes, you need to
make
understand the
gas
double
go up,
speak.
So it had to be a stronger vacuum.
Yeah,
like
if you
that.
understood what negative pressure was, you'd understand this. It would all make sense.
Oh, wait a
This
minute,
part of it
though.
I don't have
The
much of
door's open.
much of an argument with, but the shield itself was just there for protection of the atmosphere, not to hold the atmosphere in.
Yeah, you said that 3 times.
Yeah, we get it. Stop ruining.
Oh, sorry,
shit about the
I
movie?
repeated myself. Just to summarize, Jesus.
Who cares about a
Jesus,
movie?
gravity doesn't exist still,
Oh,
though.
for fuck's
I
sake.
care about the movie. It's critical, important stuff we're detailing right here.
All right,
I
I'm
love that
sorry.
movie.
And you were begging
I'm sorry,
for
please forgive
for
me.
a Glober, so here you go.
No, I'm very grateful.
On a movie.
I'm not moaning.
That's why we.
Well, be a good. Make some shit up.
No, he did a fair job.
Hey,
he justified the dome around Druidia. I mean, we got to the gas pressure differential in Megamade, and we haven't got to the fact that, obviously that implies that there couldn't be a sky vacuum above the dome, because it would suck the gas from the available volume that it was in when it was inside the dome if it didn't have the dome. But we haven't got that far, but it's it's done a reasonable job.
Yeah, they knew gas needed a container because when they were smuggling those little cans of Perry air, they put them in cans.
Yeah, in containers. Yeah.
Well, just remember though, when the doors open, it's still mostly closed, so it's still a closed system. Don't forget that.
A couple of them have tried to have me over a barrel on that because I said that the tire's an open system. And like, oh, so you're saying that the tire's not closed, then it's not containing gas pressure? I'm like, yeah, for you fundies, entropy's a bitch. It's absolute. It's going to eventually leak out because no tire's got a perfect seal. If you leave a tire long enough, the gas will eventually leak out of it because it doesn't have perfect seals. That's why you have to top your tires up because, it's an open system. The gas has got a means of getting out, therefore it's open. Now, they don't like that because even though when you've got a seemingly closed system, you can still classify it as open because there's matter exchanging. Well, just these are rigorously defined terms. It's not like a gotcha when I say, you classify a tyre as an open system because it is. You've got matter exchanging.
Speaking of air pressure, where I live at an elevation of 7,000 feet. Measured the atmospheric pressure to be 11.34 psi. Next to where I live is a mountain that's 10,000 feet tall. And I drove to the top of this mountain, watched the eclipse back in September 17, and I measured the atmospheric pressure there at 10.11. The two areas that I measured these pressures at were probably a mile apart. What explains difference in pressure?
No, that demonstrates a difference in pressure. It doesn't explain it.
Well, yeah, I'm asking for what do you surmise the reason for the difference in those pressures?
Okay, well,
Relative density.
Hold on. No, why are you asking? I will give you an answer. I don't mind giving you an answer, and I'll explain it. But what's the relevance of the question?
This is related to your pressure without a container question. I don't want to yelled at for using differential pressure when I'm not explaining where the pressure comes from originally, right? So I don't want it to turn into the argument. I measured these values with an absolute pressure.
I see. I understand. So what you're saying is
locations. So
I understand. You're saying you've measured a pressure differential, and you don't want to have the argument that we have that we win in terms of where you got the pressure from in the first place. You'd rather we stuck with the straw man argument of the pressure differential so that you can't lose. Well, that's fascinating, mate. Thank you for giving us that little caveat. You'd prefer you didn't get. You'd prefer you
I
didn't
think
get
you're misunderstanding.
because
not trying to get a gotcha. I'm telling you that I measured these two things, and I was wondering what your explanation
That's why people get shouted at when I'm in the middle of a
different.
sentence and they carry on talking when I'm in the middle of that sentence. That's why they get shouted at. So I'll just reassert what I've said. What you've just asked us to do is ignore our winning argument, and you've even acknowledged our winning argument by saying you'll be asked where you got the gas pressure from in the first instance.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you. There's a bit of a delay or somebody else talking or something that did that. I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize. No, the question is not a gotcha at all. I just was wondering why you would think there's a difference in a 3,000 foot elevation difference. Pressure is different. I don't understand where that comes from.
Can I answer that, Nathan?
Well, we can, but I want to get past the fact that we were going to argue about this without being allowed to have our winning point expressed, because apparently we just got to get an answer to why there's a pressure differential and ignore the fact that we couldn't have that gas pressure at all, or a differential, unless we were contained. But we've been told by the person who's asking us to explain it to him. I don't see the relevance of explaining it. I still don't see why we'd need to explain this. It doesn't address the reason we have the question, and you've said, I don't want to have an argument about that.
I was trying to avoid this circle is all I'm trying to do. So my explanation for having the pressure in the first place is gravity, and that air has mass. mass attracts mass, and the air is attracted to the Earth.
What's gravity?
I see.
Based
Okay.
on what hypotheses?
Okay, no worries.
That theory is outdated.
Your idea is that the gas is attracted to Earth. You're aware of something called the water cycle?
Yeah.
Hydrological cycle. In that cycle, which way does the gas go?
When water evaporates, the gas goes into the air. It's up in the atmosphere.
Up, you say?
Denses under certain conditions and rains, and the cycle starts over again.
Let's not worry about the rain, just the gas. The gas went which way? Sorry, you said it quite quickly.
Okay, so it goes up. We'll walk through this.
Okay, thank you. So when you say it's being attracted to Earth, that's complete, what's the word? Bollocks?
Again, I'm sorry, I missed it. It's bollocks?
I'll repeat it, no problem. You asserted that gas is being attracted to Earth, gravity, you said, and then you gave us some 100-year out-of-date rhetoric about Newtonian forces, mass attracting mass, 100 years out-of-date nonsense. Yeah, well, we then pointed out that gas, you've just explained to us, is going up, not attracted to Earth, completely the contrary. So therefore, bollocks, mate. Not gravity, not 100-year out-of-date mass attracting mass, not holding gas to the Earth, it's going up, mate. That's where we're at.
Oh,
You've been told your whole life that everything is.
You're a big fan of natural law, right?
Did you hear what I said?
Brian,
I didn't.
No, Brian, hold on. Sorry, is that a... Yes, I understand how my statement of gravity holding gas to the Earth is complete bollocks on a fact that it's going up. No, not you're going to ask me a question. Now, just before you answer, this is irritating, mate. Irritating because this is the third time I've said this. You've not acknowledged it once. Now, you've conceded that the gas is going up. You haven't conceded that absolutely annihilates your fundamentalist 100-year out-of-date rhetoric of mass attracting mass and holding gas to the Earth, mostly down, go boom boom. It's going up. Please, can you acknowledge this devastation of your complete nonsense, please, before I get really irritated and say it a fourth time to you? Can you acknowledge it, please? With sugar on top.
Yep, I acknowledge it. To calm down the conversation, gas goes up. Then why is there more of it at ground level than there is?
Sorry. Don't ask me a question. Yeah, gas goes up, not down, like you've said with gravity then. So I'm not looking for another concession that goes up. You've already conceded that. The point I will need you to concede is that absolutely annihilates that which you have claimed holds gas to the Earth. That would be gravity by way of mass attracting mass. That's 100 years out of date and is not the case because according to you, it's going up. So what I need you to acknowledge is the part where it annihilates your argument. That's the bit I want you to concede, mate.
I disagree.
Oh, so it's
Gas
being
goes
attracted
up.
to Earth. That violates the law of non-contradiction. It can't be being attracted to Earth, that's down, and going up away from Earth. That's a violation of the law of contradiction. I've said it once. Now, before we move on and you reassert why you think that's wrong, do you understand that that's a contradiction in terms? It can't be attracted to Earth down and going away from Earth up.
There's a contradiction, but I think we have a communication.
Don't tell me what you think. You understand, I'm telling you, I am the authority in your nonsense. Currently, there's a contradiction in terms. Not attracted to Earth going up. Don't tell me what you think. Just say, I understand. I'm talking bollocks.
Disagree.
Oh, really? So something that's going down attracted to Earth is simultaneously contradicting itself by going up? No, mate. It seems you have got this trouble, this cognitive dissonance we describe, where you hold something that is fundamentally in opposition to the position you've declared. And now you seem to be laughing over the top of me pointing out your cognitive dissonance. Something that is being attracted to Earth. Why are you laughing? Is this troubling for you?
Because you do this with every argument. The way you steer arguments.
Shut up!
The debate.
Shut up!
Hold on.
Shh! You're holding a contradiction. Now, you've said, oh, yes, that's a contradiction, but I disagree. No, it's just a contradiction.
gas goes up, there would be more gas higher than there is lower. Would you agree?
Really? Sorry,
gas does go up, though.
Who's interrupting me on the Discord, on the G+? No, mate.
I'm sorry.
I'll give you a little example. You've got a kettle, and you boil it. Once the vapour starts coming out of the spout of the kettle, if you put your finger over the kettle an inch above it, you'll burn your finger. But if you put your finger above that kettle a metre above the spout, you won't burn your finger because there's less gas higher up. It's produced from the kettle, equivalent to gas being produced in a puddle in the water cycle on the ground. And as it goes up, there's a lesser concentration because it's not being produced in midair, it's being produced on the ground where the highest concentration is. So no, it does not imply logically that there'd be a greater concentration higher up if it's going up, because the greatest concentration is going to be from where it's produced. In the same way as if you've got a tailpipe of a car, you're going to have the most concentration right at the end of the tailpipe, not dissipated into the air, that'll be less. So regardless of whether or not you understand or acknowledge what I've just said, we're still at the point where you're laughing at me, irritating twat, because you've got a contradiction that you haven't yet squared. Gas is not both going down towards Earth, go boom boom with gravity, 100-year out-of-date mass attracting mass, you haven't acknowledged that once. If it's going up, those two things are in polar opposition. It doesn't suddenly imply that the gas would all suddenly be masses of it up top and hardly anywhere it's being bloody produced. So I've dealt with both issues. We're still at the point with your contradiction. Like the other guy I detailed, circle, jerk, fundy called Zanuck, we go round and round without you acknowledging where you're talking nonsense. You think I'm wrong when you give me a contradiction of both down and up at the same time. So can you acknowledge that your nonsense has been smashed? Or do you still think I'm wrong when I point out you're contradicting yourself?
This is just the same speech that you give everybody else that is a ridiculous circle jerk that goes back and forth, and you won't let
because you've
conversation
already played
happen.
yourself.
That's not a rebuttal to the argument.
That's what happened,
Yes, that's
though.
correct,
You
Darwin.
already played yourself. You
Yes, that's
described
correct,
gas
Darwin.
as going up while it's supposed to be going down with your argument.
Essentially,
So you
what that
destroyed
was,
yourself.
What he's just done is ad hommed me. This is what you always do. This is you being something personal to you. That's an attack at the man. You haven't actually addressed my argument where I point out you have a contradiction in terms of violation of the law of non-contradiction. You haven't addressed that. You've just started attacking me for how I behave always. I'm always dealing with double-speaking, contradicting fundamentalist zealots who laugh when I point out their contradiction and then think that they can attack the man rather than the argument. That's what you've done. You've utilised a string of logical fallacies and then laughed at me.
I apologize for laughing. It's just that argument technique is the same.
I see. I'm really sorry I shouted at you. I'm really sorry that I pointed out your contradicting nonsense was contradictory, and we're still at that point. But now let's get into a little back and forth about how sorry we are. No, why don't you address the contradiction that you've utilised when you say gas is going down with gravity, with 100-year out-of-date rhetoric of a force that's not a force, it's actually the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time. And no matter how much you think about it, it's not going to give rise to any force. Thinking about concepts doesn't give rise to forces. So it's definitely not this force you've utilised that's 100 years out of date. You're still yet to address that. You're still yet to address the contradiction that it's not both going up and down. That's nonsense.
Here's the justification for that then. There's more gas at ground level.
Yeah,
because it's denser.
That. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, there's more gas at ground level because it's denser. Would that be correct?
No, I stated that that's where the gas is being produced, therefore it's in the highest concentration. I qualified it with an example with a kettle.
In that gases are produced at ground level. How does that work?
Who cares? You have yet again.
Who cares?
Yeah. Sorry, mate. The address that I'm looking for is in regards to your contradiction that I've annihilated. Told you to state that the bollocks is contradictory. Now you seem to be asking me a question about how the gas cycles work. That's called an obfuscation tactic.
Sorry,
also
I didn't know
while you talk through me, because you're annoying and you're going to talk through me mid-sentence, we call that the fundamentalist globehead religious zealot mute button. While I'm in the middle of pointing out that you're still yet to address this contradiction, that you're asking me a question about how gas cycles work, in spite of the fact that that is entirely irrelevant to A, how you can have gas pressure in the first place, because we're a million miles away from that right now, aren't we? because I've got into justifying what you wanted to talk about, a gas pressure gradient, and talking about gas cycles. Where do we get this gas pressure from, given that your sky's a vacuum and you refuse to address that so far your only rebuttal to this involves a contradiction? You want to get further and further away from that. We haven't got any containment for the gas to form in the first instance. That's the bit that you prefer we didn't argue about, but I'm absolutely going to argue about it. How is any of this happening at all if we don't have containment?
Because of gravity.
No, what, your 100-year out-of-date rhetoric? Repeat after me. Gravity is not a force that's 100 years out of date. Repeat that, please.
Oh, that's bullcrap because there's a Newton's law
That
of
would
universal
just be
gravitation.
being a liar
It's
then.
a law.
What's Newton's law?
Newton's law of universal gravitation states that every point of mass in the universe attracts every other point of mass with a force that is directly proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. It's a law, like your thermodynamics law that can't be argued.
What's the formula?
It's a
And
law.
don't equivocate between laws. What is the formula?
Formula is F1 equals big G times the mass of object 1 times the mass of object 2 divided by the square between
Sorry,
them.
you're not listening.
That is incorrect.
Go ahead,
You
Kiwi.
don't even know. You're appealing to Newton's law, and you don't even know his law. Big G is not in his formula, son.
Absolutely is.
It absolutely is.
Okay, hold on. No. Do you want to cite that, please? Do you want to show us?
How can I screen share?
Just post it in the live stream, citation.
It's getting close to turn out the lights time, pretender clown.
Posted.
You've posted it?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm not in live stream. 1 second.
No worries.
Who is it, Alpha Murphy?
Let's not get slipped.
No, I'm just identifying his name in here.
Oh, my bad.
1 second. This is from Google, just from Google. All right, hold on.
Just from Google?
Why do I gotta chase this stuff down?
How can it just be from Google?
What? Just 1 second.
Sorry.
It's just I don't have a link here.
I'll do the.
You need a link to direct source instead of the Google.
Yeah, you just gave me Google.
Yeah,
Just give you a Google search.
Let's just end this. Let's just end it quick because I got breakfast here and it's getting cold. 1 second. We'll end it quick. So, let me go ahead and share my screen, Nathan. 1 second. Yeah, why ain't he doing it? Oh, boy. You got me?
Yep.
Are you watching? Oh, this is taped. See, you said everyone else is saying it, but I'll just go through it. See, the force of gravity, the ballers will invariably say is big G M1 over R times M2 over R squared, right? That's not Newton's equation. This is. The force of gravity is proportional to M1, M2 divided by distance squared. So it was 207 friggin' years after the Principia was published and 167 years after Newton's death that CV boys added this big G. So you're wrong.
Time traveling Freemasons.
You can bend time if you just believe in. So anything is possible.
No. This is just don't confuse things. This is, I know you're just speaking an analogy for something else that's humorous, but no, if you say we're bending time to go back to, people will suddenly confuse that with us talking about space-time. We're not. We're talking about mass attracting mass now. We're in Newtonian, CV boys, Reverend John Mitchell. That's what we're talking about, not bending space-time. I know you're saying time travel to get this information from people in the future, in the case of Newton, but yeah, let's just not confuse it with this terminology of time travel, because that's going to...
So he's appealing to Newton's law, and he doesn't even know what it is. I mean, what on earth, dude?
As he eats breakfast.
We're going to get a reply from him.
Sorry, I don't want to fundy mute.
No, just go ahead, Alpha Murphy.
I still want you to tell me why the pressure didn't equalize between my mountain and
He
7,000
goes on to
feet.
another question.
Sorry, you asserted that it was gravity, and then when we got you to give us what you think is a law, something that's over 100 years out of date, you inserted big G?
No, the original question that I wanted to get to, we got steered down this road again. I wanted to know why the second law of thermodynamics didn't equalize the pressure between my
why are you going back to
1
the
mile
original,
distance.
Oh, we'll get to that
And,
one. We're going to get to that. Can you say something to the fact that you quoted a law and you didn't know what it was?
Are you saying that law, that formula is not correct?
The one you gave us was incorrect. You inserted big G.
It's not that's not Newton's law?
Did you not just listen? No, it's not. No, that's been inserted by Reverend John Mitchell, Cavendish, and CV Boys.
Okay. So it got corrected. Now that formula is invalid?
It got corrected.
So even the formula, the incorrect one that you gave, that's not Newton. That's the first problem. That's the bit we're trying to get you to establish, that you quoted a law from Newton. No, you're wrong.
There is no universal, or there's no law of universal gravitation then?
Yeah, there is. It just doesn't have big G in it.
Really not understanding the problem.
Because you're admitting that there is a law of gravitation, but then you say gravity's not real?
You have to process
No, there is a thing. Guy. No, there is in existence a thing called the universal law of gravitation. You don't know what that is, but you appeal to it.
You're saying that it exists, that the universal law of gravitation is real, but then you say gravity doesn't exist.
Did I say real? No, that's not what I said. No, there is a thing in existence called the universal law of gravitation. Did I say that the universal law of gravitation is real? No, I didn't say that. No, in the same way as I can write down a poem about unicorns, and then I can declare that that poem is real. The poem exists. But does that mean that unicorns that are contained within the poem are real? No, I'm not implying that. No, I'm not saying that Newton's law applies. I've specifically said that it's 100 years out of date, and it's definitely not gravity.
And it's not a law anymore either, by the way.
Correct. It doesn't apply. It's not a law. It's been debunked.
Can you tell me where that law was disproven?
I just need to hold a helium balloon. Just need to let go of a helium balloon and watch that law fall into oblivion.
Helium balloon works off of buoyancy.
Oh, a buoyancy. So let me get this straight. This law is going to utilize a presupposition of gravity and buoyancy to justify a law when it doesn't work. So ultimately beg the question with it. No, this law is 100 years out of date and doesn't apply. Do you not understand this?
The age of the law is irrelevant.
Well, its validity is, though. Its validity is irrelevant, is it? how valid it is. Is that relevant?
How old is the second law of thermodynamics?
Inviolable.
Age
not been demonstrated. Incorrect. Not been violated ever. Inviolable, the second law of thermodynamics. Universal law of gravitation, you can debunk with a helium balloon, as we just explained, and you kind of chuckled. A bit like you chuckled last time.
No way.
Yeah, there's
no
that chuckle
way
again.
that a balloon proves the law of universal gravitation.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, prove it. Well, scientifically prove the universal law of gravitation that you don't know.
Bring Arwen in and talk about relative density. That's how a helium balloon is going to rise.
Sorry.
Natural phenomena, please. We want you to prove the law scientifically. First step. Do you even know? Let's go back.
Hey, let me turn one back on you then. Laws do not have anything to do with science. There's no proof required. It's a law. Like you guys always say about thermodynamics. It's a law. It doesn't use science.
You're equivocating the law of thermodynamics with your debunked law, Newton's universal law of gravitation. You see the problem there?
They're both natural laws.
No. The second law is a natural law. Newton's universal law of gravitation has been debunked.
Please.
In fact, you're fairy tale pseudoscientists. You're not even parroting the right pseudoscience, because as of 1915, your pseudoscience have gone with general theory of relativity gravity.
Can you give me a citation for the law of
you're
universal
arguing the
gravitation
old and
being
busted,
debunked?
and you're not arguing the new hotness.
Sorry,
which is also bunk.
The old and busted gave you a force to make the gas go down, go boom, boom. And gravity is not a force. Regardless of whether or not you accept this, it's not relevant. You're quoting the wrong pseudoscience, debunked laws that aren't laws anymore, 100-year out-of-date pseudoscience versus the current rhetoric of bending conceptual mediums. So regardless of how much you want to argue for this nonsense indefinitely about gravity, the argument isn't about gravity. Gravity was your rebuttal for how gas, which is actually going up, you've conceded that, is simultaneously contradicting itself by being attracted to Earth with a force that doesn't exist. So we've got a force that doesn't exist that you now want to argue about indefinitely, and it doesn't address the fact that gas expands in all directions to fill the available volume, and you haven't got any containment. Your rebuttal of gravity's been smashed because you're using 100-year out-of-date gravity, and the current rhetoric of gravity will not overcome entropy. Not only that, gas isn't behaving the way you detail it to behave in order to have this force that's not a force, because gravity isn't pulling the gas down, it's going up. So there we are, back on rails, nice and heading towards the horizon that's not physical.
Excellent summary. Thank you. To get back to the point, why didn't the air pressure the ground or at 7,000 feet rush up to fill the available volume at the top of the mountain at 10,000 feet?
Sorry, it's less. I went through this with a kettle. Again, lack of any acknowledgement from you in that regard, so you can whistle past it and ignore it seems. So you appreciate that because the gas is being created at ground level, it will be less as you go up. You did concede that. And then you went on to explain to me, yes, I concede, more at ground level where it's being produced.
Your tea kettle thing was horrible because you said you equated pressure with temperature and burning your finger, which was terrible. But the whole producing gas at ground just drives me batty because that's just...
Where's the gas produced?
It doesn't get produced.
Where does the gas come from on Earth?
Oh, it doesn't get produced.
Where does it come from?
Sorry, he's just stated that gas doesn't get produced at ground level. That's baffling. So when you see a puddle one day and then you come back after a hot day and it's gone, you don't think that's the production of water vapor?
No, that's a conversion from a liquid to a gas.
So it's being created. The gas has been created from liquid then?
Oh, it just changed phase. It didn't
get changed states to a gas. Matter. So it was liquid, and then, let me phrase this carefully, gas was created.
Converted.
Wow.
Liquid to a gas.
Yeah,
the liquid is no longer there, and now there's a gas. It just
that's
got
right.
Converted.
So it was
produced.
So it was produced at ground level then?
Oh, so what happened to the area that the liquid was?
So no acknowledgement from you. Do you see why people get shouted at here? So your nonsense been smashed, and it's now time for a question that I should answer. No, mate. You've just said that it's baffling to assume that gas is produced at ground level. Why wouldn't it equalise? Why wouldn't it be more at the top where it's not being produced? Even though earlier, cognitive dissonance has set in again, you see. You don't want to hold what you've already... Now you're talking through me. Fundy mute button. Something that earlier, when you were being smashed and silent, you decided that you weren't going to do and justified your silence when not answering something with not wanting to fundy mute me, but now you're proceeding to fundy mute me. Yet we've smashed your nonsense. We smashed it earlier. You acknowledged it earlier, but have had amnesia and forgotten all about the fact that, gas is produced at ground level. Then you denied that, and I had to take you by the hand like a retard and explain that absolutely that phase transition that you described was producing gas. That's right, mate. Yeah, the thing you conceded to earlier. So we're back on the rails again. We're at the point where the question we ask is how we have the gas in the first instance, and all we're doing with you is talking about how we have gas pressure gradients while you deny fundamental principles you were taught in 7th grade at high school. Now, while it's fun to discuss how gas is created at ground level and thins out as you get higher, it doesn't really address how we'd have that pressure at all if the sky was a vacuum. Now, gravity doesn't address this because it's not a force. And I know you want to argue about that indefinitely also, but we've smashed that also. I'm almost certain that you'll have amnesia again and introduce this gravity concept which we've destroyed, or deny that gas is created at ground level and gets thinner as it goes up, answering your initial question, and then address the reason you've got that question, which is how we can have gas pressure in the first place with our container. Given that the sky is a vacuum in your heliocentric religion, the gas we breathe would all fill the space. We'd never achieve any situation where we could even have a gradient for you to ask me about, because the gas would all fill the space.
But the gas at 7,000 feet didn't fill the space at 10,000 feet.
Yeah, it's working its way up and getting less because there's less of a... and now you're fundy muting and laughing. You see, it seems like when I smash your point for a second time, it doesn't address my question. We're still never going to address my question. How do we have this gas pressure in the first place? You're just going to continually circle jerk around asking me about how gas pressure gradient is achieved and why it's less higher when I've just explained it about 30 seconds ago. Because the gas is produced at ground level, phase transition as you put it, creating gas, and halfway up a mountain, there's less ground level producing gas for there to be gas. So there's less of it the higher you go. Something that you've understood, it's been given you an analogy with kettles, and you've decided to ignore it and say it's baffling, even though it's patently obvious and taught to you in 7th grade. So we're still at the point where you're yet to address the actual problem with your model, your fundamentalist religious belief that the Earth is a sphere with gas pressure in a vacuum, something that violates natural law.
If I took a bunch of flat earthers and I stacked them all on top of each other in a bit.
So this is the end of your acknowledgement of my demolition, and time for a new straw man obfuscation question after a short pause. So, mate, if the sky was a vacuum as per your religion, the gas we breathe would fill the space.
Before you wind up, what you're about to, I can feel it. The reason you get fundy muted all the time, in my opinion, is...
Who cares? The sky is not a vacuum. I don't give a shit what you think about my show. You fundy moron. Your sky's not a vacuum. You've got a religious belief in a globe with pressure in a vacuum. It's wrong. I don't give a shit what you think about my show. Shut up about why you think people fundy mute me. I don't care. You've done it repeatedly because I'm destroying your religion. And now I've got us back on track, taking us away from the red herring about my show, back on the sky vacuum that's not real. And he fundy mutes me again, talks through me. I'm demolishing your religious belief in a sky vacuum. And all you can do is fundy mute me and then discuss the fundy mute button. No, mate. Your sky's not a vacuum. The Earth's not a sphere. We don't live with a vacuum above our heads, not having the gas fill that space. That's nonsense. That's just your religious belief. Now, I know you want to talk about something else immediately and not address that, but I'm not going to allow you to talk about a different subject like my production, or why people think they need to talk through me when I smash their religion like I'm doing now. You do it because you don't like your religion being taken to pieces, so you're going to talk through it when I say the sky is not a vacuum. Or you'll laugh because the cognitive dissonance leaves you in pain. And mentally, the way people cope with pain is they laugh or they try and avoid it. They try and talk through it. I'm detailing your pain and how to cope with your pain. You laugh about it. That's what you're doing. You use the fundy mute button because I'm taking apart your religious belief that the sky is a vacuum. It isn't. It violates natural law, and your rebuttals have all been taken to pieces here by me, while you fundy mute me, ignore my rebuttals, leave short pauses and ask me questions. You've been smashed, mate.
In other words, victimized.
Sky is a vacuum.
Hold on, he needs to chant. Hold on, everyone on the panel. Hold on. He needs to chant his religious belief a few times. Tell us how the sky's a vacuum, mate. Go on, chant away.
Sorry, I didn't know I was interrupting QE. Please continue.
I didn't interrupt you. You started chanting through everybody, saying the sky is a vacuum. I heard you.
The sky is a vacuum.
Yep, chant it a few more times.
It's a vacuum. Sky's a vacuum.
No, it isn't. If the sky was a vacuum, natural law, the second law of thermodynamics, inviolable, applicable, dictates that the gas we breathe would fill the available volume. The gas would fill the space.
Speech. Nice speech.
That's an ad hom. That's not a rebuttal. That's you attacking me, the man. Nice speech. Yeah, what a load of nonsense. Maybe use the word salad. Yeah? No, that's not a rebuttal, mate. That's an ad hominem attack. That's a logical fallacy.
Well, it's not. It's not. Oh.
That's a hand wave. Ipsy Dixit fallacy.
Oh, God, here we go. List them all out.
What, you're chanting? You just chanted that the sky was a vacuum 4 times. That's what you just did.
You told me to. You told me to repeat it. The sky is a vacuum. The higher you get, the lower the pressure goes until eventually you get to zero pressure.
No, if you had
law
zero...
thermodynamics violation.
Exactly. That's the second law of thermodynamics violation. If you had zero pressure, then that would be an available volume for the gas we breathe to fill. And fill it would. It's dictated by natural law. Inviolable.
The pressure would equalize, right?
No. So we're circle jerk fundy idiot back to not acknowledging that the gas is produced at ground level again. Oh, wow. How quickly we circle jerk and have amnesia.
About the closed system of the boron tube.
It would equalize. Wait a second. You're right. It would equalize to 10 to the negative 17 torr. How are you still breathing, funny boy?
Yeah, if the sky was a vacuum, equalization would be that the gas would fill the available volume that the gas has to fill. So yeah, correct, Huey. We would be at 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level. That's not a lot of gas to be able to breathe. Oh, what do you know? We are breathing gas, though. We're at pressure. So therefore, the gas hasn't filled an available volume sky vacuum. So there isn't one.
No, the valve is closed.
The guy brings up a good point. So the two glass bulbs that had one had a vacuum in it and the other one had a gas in it. You open up the valve. Did pressure equalize between those two?
Yes.
Yeah, it did.
It doesn't equalize between 7,000.
Did you notice they were both in a container?
Isn't the Earth in a container? Isn't the...
No, you retard. Isn't the Earth in a container? What, like Druidia?
You said that for us to...
Yo, moron. You just asked me if the Earth was in a container, and I'm asking you for clarity of your stupid question and your declaration that you clearly don't understand the heliocentric religion that you're believing in. No, mate, not like Druidia. Open to the vacuum.
You say that if we have pressure, there has to be a container.
Yeah, it's a necessary antecedent. Without the container, there can be no pressure.
So I went outside and measured pressure with an absolute pressure gauge. We have pressure.
Then we absolutely have containment. It's a necessary antecedent. Without something to press on, you have no pressure.
So we do have pressure. So
yes, so therefore we have containment. Not therefore we have a sky vacuum. because that violates natural law.
Where's the container?
Who cares? I don't claim the sky is a vacuum, and I don't make any declarations about what the sky is. You've come here to say that Druidia was only contained because gravity was actually holding on the atmosphere, and it wasn't going to escape to the sky vacuum that we definitely have. This is your claim. So what, because you've been smashed to oblivion, suddenly I've got to tell you what the sky is? No. You think it's a vacuum, it isn't.
Sky is a sorry. To live with
Mutter, mumble, mumble.
Chanting, he's chanting again.
Chanting, sky is a vacuum, sky is a vacuum, gravity,
I'll
gravity,
speak
gravity.
more clearly. Higher in elevation you go, the lower the pressure gets.
Yeah, that's
Where'd
correct.
you get the pressure from?
Yeah,
How
where
do we
did
have
you...
that pressure in the first place? You're not getting
Zero.
it.
Yeah, where'd you get the pressure from in the first place? How did you have gas pressure in the first instance? How did that gas pressure form to then develop as a delta of that gas pressure? Things like gas pressure gradients, gas pressure cycles. To first have gas pressure is our question. How can you first develop the gas pressure if you don't have any containment? How is that possible?
Let me flip it around. Why don't I ask you that same question?
Well, you can't have gas pressure without a container to answer that question. And I'll quote one of your own side, a globe head called Conspiracy Cats. Quote, without the container, there can be no pressure. End quote.
Boom, boom.
Where is our let me ask you, where is our pressure coming from? I measured it.
From ground level, from the gas being produced. Amnesia again?
So it's just the production of gas that gives us pressure.
No, you'd need the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon. And I'm asking you, given that you need to fundy mute this question, where we get the gas pressure from if the sky is a vacuum. Not Druidia. They don't claim it's contained, mate. That's where we got to last time. Train's back on the rails.
Where is the container at then?
Sorry, there is no container in your religious belief of a sky vacuum, and that's what we're asking you. Given that you claim the sky is a vacuum, I don't know what the sky is, but I make no claims what it is. You make a claim, it's a vacuum.
Yeah. You have an awesome appeal to ignorance. I don't know what...
Sorry, I haven't made a claim about what the sky is. My appeal to ignorance. I haven't made a claim.
What is the sky? What is the sun?
I have just told you that I don't make a claim what the sky is. You do.
Claim to know everything.
You claim the sky was a
know
vacuum. Who's talking through me?
Sorry.
You claim the sky is a vacuum. I do not claim the sky is anything. I do claim, get it down, write a pen, that without a container, there can be no pressure. Because it is, fact, a necessary antecedent. You cannot have gas pressure without a container. By inference, I can infer that because we have gas pressure, there must be containment. That doesn't make any claim about what the sky is. Now, you, on the other hand, claim the sky is a vacuum. Therefore, we ask the claimant, if the sky is a vacuum, as per your claim, how can we have gas pressure? Because the gas would fill the space.
And equalize, and it doesn't equalize, and there is a container, big circle jerk.
So there is a container? Well, not in your religious belief, mate. So you saying there is a container? No, there isn't in your religious belief, mate. So it seems welcome to flat Earth is in order of the day, right? Because no, that you globe Earth in a vacuum, fundy mute time. Globe Earth in a vacuum doesn't have a container. You just said, yeah, so there's a container. No, it's not Druidia, dickhead.
Okay, that's an ad hom right there, dude.
No, you are a moron because you keep telling us that your heliocentric world has a container. No, you're wrong. That makes you
whistle
a dick.
right by that ad hom?
No, that's a double speaking dick move because you're now arguing that, yeah, we got a container. No, you haven't got a container. Now, unless you're going to say, well, what I meant was gravity's the container, but I just hadn't said it yet. Well, no, we've already smashed that. Was this a lead-in double-speaking dick? No, it's not an ad hom. You are a dick because you're double-speaking. We don't have a container around a sphere Earth. It's not Druidia. When you said, yeah, so we've got to have a container then. Yeah, necessary antecedent. Yeah. Earth doesn't have that. Therefore, the sky is not a vacuum. That's our point.
Okay, sky's not a vacuum. Where is the container?
Oh, well, that's the end of your religion then. Who cares beyond that point? Why are you asking me a question? Yeah, the sky's not a vacuum. That's the end of your heliocentric religion then.
The question I'm trying to ask is, you have to have an antecedent container for the pressure that I can measure. Where is this container?
Well,
doesn't
definitely.
matter. If it's
sorry.
necessary
God,
doesn't matter.
Hello. It does not matter. It's sorry, laugh it up, mate. Sorry, you've just conceded. If you talk through me continually, dick. Yeah, that's a dick move. That's not an ad hom. You are a dick. Thank you. So, sky not a vacuum then. So, you concede, you agree, we would require a container. Therefore, the sky's not a vacuum then.
A circle jerk you do here. Fucking crazy.
Is that a
Simple
yes?
logic, knucklehead.
Oh, God. Is that a yes? I concede we would require a container.
I have to say shit just so that I can make a point. The sky is actually a vacuum. Sorry.
No, the sky is not a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. It's an available volume for the gas to fill. If it was there, we wouldn't have any gas. You keep asking us, well, wouldn't it be equalised? Yeah, it would equalise to 10 to the minus 17 torr. If the sky was a vacuum, we'd have no gas to breathe. It would equalise with that vacuum. Yeah, that's right, mate. Like we showed with the bromine, requiring containment. Yeah, then we're back on track again. Maybe a little chuckle. No sky vacuum then. Need containment then, as conceded by you.
Okay, so in the bromine valve, pressure equalized. You also say that there has to be a container for pressure. We have pressure. There must be a container. Therefore, it would equalize. It doesn't equalize because I measured a difference in 3,000 feet with 11.34 to 10.1 pounds. It didn't equalize. There's no container in that area.
Sorry, you don't seem to appreciate that to have the gas pressure, to have that differential, as explained 6 times, you don't get the gas pressure to begin with unless you have containment. Is it just circle jerk us back to gradients again? Ground level, production of gas thins out as it goes up. We've gone through this with you 5 times. Circle jerker. Circle jerker. Circle jerker. Yeah, circle jerker. We've gone through this with you, haven't we, mate?
So wrong, though.
Seems wrong. Well, no, because the sky's not a vacuum. Yeah, it seems wrong because it violates natural law to assume the sky is a vacuum. It's not contained, like Druidia.
Okay, so we measure, so we can test some of this theory, right? With measurement. We can measure the pressure on the ground.
This isn't a theory.
Measure
No, this is not a theory.
Measure it in
Stop. Stop. Hello, Dick. No, when I say stop, it's because you've said something incorrect. This is not a theory. You don't know what a theory is, I assure you of that.
Didn't hear you say stop. I'm sorry.
Stop. Not a theory. Please stop babbling nonsense about something that you claim is a theory with this colloquial term.
Okay, sorry. Wrong words. I can measure pressure at ground level, right?
Where'd you get the pressure from?
Okay, you can measure pressure at ground level. Yeah, how is that possible if the sky is a vacuum?
Well, stay with me for a second. Don't bring you up too far yet.
Well, no, I just measure how we would. No. I need to establish immediately how we have this gas pressure, because if the gas, let's say we've got a puddle, right, and the puddle's heated up and it produces a gas, and the sky was a vacuum, well, then all the surrounding gas anywhere near that puddle would have already evacuated into that sky vacuum. So what I want to know is, given that the sky, according to you, is a vacuum, how it's possible to measure a gas pressure at ground level at all? Short pause, now time for a new
drive.
question. He'll ask me something that's nothing related, guaranteed.
Let me drive for a second. I measure pressure, it gets there magically. Sky God.
No, it doesn't get there magically. You need a container. No, not magic, shithead. Don't say magic. No. To have gas pressure, you need a container, not magic.
Where's the container?
Sorry, the container. What? We must have it because we've got gas pressure. But you think the sky is a vacuum?
It's right there.
If you have pressure in a container, it equalizes across the whole container, right?
No, we live in a dynamic system. Circle jerking, fundy religious moron. We've gone through this on multiple occasions with you. It's about the 8th time. Gas is produced at ground level. You have cycles, like the water cycle. It goes up, it condenses, it comes back down. That's a cycle. But in that process, the gas is produced at ground level and therefore is thinner higher up. We've gone through this with you, I'm not kidding, at least 8 times. And you just keep circle jerking back to something that's been rebutted. And my question still stands. How is it possible to measure a gas in the first instance if we've got a sky vacuum, a massive amount of space for the gas to vacate into, and vacate it would by way of natural law entropy increase? It's called the second law of thermodynamics. It's the entropy law. They're one and the same thing. It dictates how gas behaves, entropy. It's real, inviolable, and the gas would fill that space if the sky was a vacuum. So you're saying we were at ground level, we've got gas pressure. I'm saying, oh, well, how is that possible if this black area on my screen for my audience is a vacuum? Because all this gas down here would just piss off into it.
So we have gas pressure at the surface of the Earth because air has mass, mass is attracted to mass, and...
No, we smashed this earlier, you circle-jerking, fundy religious chanter. We went through this earlier, 100-year out-of-date rhetoric. You don't even know what the actual Newtonian law was. You're a spastic. So, circle-jerking fundy, do you think you can just keep going down this train over and over again, reasserting things that we've smashed into oblivion? Why do you think people get shouted at here, mate? That's about the 6th time you've used that. And we've smashed it into the middle of next week every time, but you still reassert it. You don't acknowledge that when we get to these sorts of stony silences, you don't acknowledge that you've had this smashed. You just ask us a question. So you're a fundamentalist religious zealot who, regardless of any rebuttal or any challenge or anything that demonstrates your religious belief to be incorrect, you'll still hold it as true. Gravity's not a force, mass doesn't attract mass.
Mass absolutely attracts mass.
No, that's 100-year out-of-date pseudoscience. No, mate, not the current rhetoric. No, that was what they called gravity.
No, but Newton...
Mass attracts mass. Why does the...
He just chanted it out, Arwin, while you talked through him. Mass attracts mass, mass attracts mass. No, mate, that's not acknowledgement of how I've smashed it. Not even the current rhetoric of your scientific priesthood. Yeah, that's not the current rhetoric. Gravity is not a force. Mass is not attracting mass.
Mass attracts mass. Why?
See, he's just chanting it and then asking me a question. So in the face of my rebuttal, what, chant it and then ask me something? No, you little prick. That's not a rebuttal. That's chanting your religious belief at me. Mass does not attract mass.
That was an experiment.
Cavendish is an experiment. I'm sorry. You guys fuck that up all the time, too.
Sorry, now you're swearing at me. Why are you swearing at us?
Did not mean to use the F word. I apologize to your audience. Not to you, but to your audience.
Well, you swore at us.
He says science.
You said, you guys fuck this up. The Cavendish experiment you were referring to. Cavendish is not an experiment. There is no...
Yes, it is.
We can go there, Nathan.
Okay, fine. Let's do it.
Hold on.
You think it's an experiment? No worries. Let's take you through this process.
Go with QE.
Yeah, we're going to validate your claim.
1 second, sir. I got to find the damn thing.
No worries. Just before you start, I'll just say, so it's a, introduction, the dissection of his nonsense, and then a summary of the same thing at the end. The Cavendish experiment is absolutely not an experiment. It does not have a phenomena to observe, nor does it have an independent variable, presumed cause of the effect validated by the experiment. The phenomena is conjured within the experiment, within the apparatus. It's not observed in nature. So nobody will show me mass attracting mass in nature. It does not happen. However,
They can't even define it.
Right, they can't even define mass, correct. But we'll go ahead and we'll try and validate this guy. Natural observed phenomena, please.
Let's go ahead with the apple falling, I guess.
Apple falls to the ground, go boom, boom.
So relative density. There's no force disequilibrium happening.
Okay. So
Let
you
him-
understand that this is the dependent variable, right? Apple fall to the ground.
I would like to surmise that because the ground is mass and because the apple is mass, that they are attracting each other.
Wait a second. I asked you a question. Do you understand that the apple falls to the ground is the dependent variable?
Sir.
All right. So apple falls to the ground. What causes apple to fall to the ground? That is, what is the independent variable?
Mass of the apple.
So mass causes apple fall to the ground. Wait a second. What is mass? Can you define it for us?
The amount of material in the object.
Wrong.
That's incorrect. That's mole.
Oh, mole is a quantitative measurement of specific atoms.
No,
The amount of
are
stuff.
we talking about mole and mass again?
Shut up,
So
Zanuck.
I use mole at work in a gas chromatograph.
Yeah, that's wonderful. But the amount of substance in something is not mass by the Royal Chemistry Society, son. Do you need that citation too?
Here we go with sure.
So what is
Do you know?
mass?
You don't know what mass is.
Hold on,
How
Jimmy.
can you
Hold
say
on.
it causes
Hold
something?
on. Just 1 sec. Sorry. So it's not mole. So what is mass then? Because so far you've given us the definition of mole, and we don't seem to have any gravity in this. But nevertheless, we've got mass causes apple to fall to the ground. What's mass?
A mass is both a property of a physical body and a measure of its resistance to acceleration when a net force is applied.
That's wrong. That's inertia.
That's inertia.
That's inertia.
This is citation from Wikipedia.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well,
I
it
know.
Matches.
You can get a different. Get a different one if you
hold
want.
on, hold on. Are you aware of what an equivocation fallacy is?
A definition, but yes, I am familiar with equivocation fallacy.
What's an equivocation fallacy?
Where you take the same.
You broke up. Can you repeat that?
Where you take two different things and assume that they're the same.
Two different definitions of something.
Do you realize how you just did that?
You appreciate that you've given us two definitions of mass thus far. One would be actually the same as the definition of mole, and then a second, kind of like an equivocation, where you describe it as inertia. You appreciate that that's an equivocation fallacy?
The slow speech. Nice.
Fallacy.
Waiting for an affirmation, a yes or a no. Maybe I should say it even slower.
Yes. Don't say it slower, please.
So you understand that you've used an equivocation, so we're at the point where we've got something that validates the cause of apple falling, and the cause is mass, which is undefined. I just want to, maybe swear at you. What the fuck does this have to do with gravity?
Why do you stop it here? Let's keep going with the experiment.
Yo, What the fuck does this have to do with gravity, you unbelievable moron? I've got apples falling down, I've got undefined mass. What the hell does this have to do with gravity? Are you just pissing in our faces? I don't even see the word gravity on there. So far you haven't even mentioned it, you dipshit. What the hell does this have to do with gravity, you complete idiot?
He says we messed this up all the time.
Mass. It's
Nathan,
Sorry, did he say, yeah, that's where I was going, Neil. Did he say we fuck this up all the time? You complete retard? I'm berating you, mate. You don't need to talk to me. I'm telling you off because you're stupid. Apparently this is some validation for 100-year out-of-date rhetoric that you feel I need to fundy mute you while I tell you off and point out that you haven't even got the word gravity in this hypothesis. That's nonsense with an undefined mass that you've equivocated with. And the cause that we're trying to figure out the effect of, or the effect we're trying to figure out the cause of, is apple falling. Right? That's your phenomena. Apple falling. Right, sod all to do with gravity. This is nonsense, mate. Not only that, this definitely has sod all to do with Cavendish. I've not got any torsion bars, I've not got any balls. This has nothing to do with Cavendish. So you told us that you could assert scientific validity to gravity with the Cavendish quote-unquote experiment, and then you fucked us around with apples falling and not even mentioned gravity. Are you totally retarded?
Apparently so.
Yes, you are unbelievably stupid, like all of you.
One moment of clarity.
You're all retards. You haven't got the slightest clue what you babble on about when you come here talking about Druidia and its containment and it only being needed because they're going to suck it away because gravity's holding it there. And when we get to your definition, you've got equivocation, you've got fallacy, you've got ad hom, you've got laughter, but you haven't got any evidence that the sky is a vacuum, have you now? The sky isn't a vacuum because the gas we breathe would fill the space. So you think mimicry is a rebuttal? You think mimicking my demolition of your fundy sky vacuum belief is a rebuttal?
But yeah, he's got an independent variable he can't even define. That's cute.
Yep. Before we leave the page, can we go over the Royal Society of Chemistry to pound away at your mass amount of substance from the Royal Society of Chemistry? Moreover, studies have shown that the amount of substance is often incorrectly identified with mass. Thank you very much. You're finished.
Drop. Nice. QE, way to go.
That word was the key word was incorrectly, right?
Yes. So,
right.
You know when you're lost? When you start saying
your
this
mass
is why we watch
chromometer
this
is
show.
friggin' nonsense. You can't even define it.
Alva, you did kind of for it.
Any last words, Alpha Murphy? I'm just waiting for your response. Maybe chant something at us again?
Oh, sorry. I've had enough fun for today. Thank you guys very much for. I got all of the things except didn't get any from Arwen. So relative density, equilibrium crap that he spews, thing I missed out on. So.
No, that's not crap. That's about as consistent as you can get for an explanation for how a microphone drops when it's forced into disequilibrium and then returns from whence it came. Not even I can summarise it as well as Arwen. Not crap. About as concise as you can get.
And all you managed to do was literally chant sky vacuum. You literally chanted sky vacuum, and that's it.
You can measure a reduction in pressure as you get higher.
Before he goes?
A reduction in pressure that we wouldn't have if the sky was a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas would fill the space, but you whistle past that and just constantly circle down the down the drain, using this nonsense of a gas pressure gradient when we wouldn't have any gas pressure to begin with if the sky was a vacuum.
Could he define relative density equilibrium, please?
No way.
Could you define
He can't even define gas pressure.
Well, apparently he did hear my explanation and thought it was all crap. Probably because he didn't get it, so...
Yeah, he didn't understand that.
But he didn't listen.
Probably because he's just looking for sound bites.
Sounds like
it. Sounds like.
Well, soundbite this. Arwen's explanation is fucking fantastic as far as I'm concerned. He's the most concise person when he describes this, because he spent about a year solid arguing with Sleeping Warrior about it and getting his argument down to the point where he can concisely detail precisely what is a mic dropping when it's forced out of equilibrium into, what do you know, disequilibrium. And what's happening? Well, the density of the mic and its relativity to the air around it. Well, relative density disequilibrium, those three words concisely summarise all of that I've just had to babble through in about 5 sentences. Kudos, Arwin. Arwin is ace. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who did tune in on this extended Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making this After Show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!